Hey guys, welcome to our Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. If you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe. The subscribe button can be found at the bottom of this video. Just click on that, like our videos, and don't forget to leave us a comment. And also turn on the notifications so that you'll be notified every time we release a new video. We generally release new videos on a Wednesdays and a Saturday, but lately we've been releasing a lot of videos only on Saturdays. Today you have a special new video on a Wednesday. Okay, at the bottom of the videos, if you click on that show more button just to expand the description panel underneath the video, you'll see we have a lot of information available for you there. All right, because our videos are very long, we generally include timestamps in all of the videos that we produce so that you would be able to find a section that you're interested in, click on the timestamp and forward to that section of the video so that you don't have to watch the entire length of the video. You can just focus on the parts that are interesting to you. And also when we return, because we're a learning channel, some of these concepts you might have to watch them over and over again. When you do come back to the video to remind yourself of something, feel free to use the timestamps and go back to the section where you were trying to remember something to do and click on that. Okay, and at the bottom there we also have, because we're busy with the tutorial series, we will have links to the previous videos that we've done. So if you're catching up with us now and you can't sort of follow along and figure out what we've been doing, you can go to the bottom of the video and have a look at the previous videos we've already done and see what part it is, and you can click on it and you can watch that video just to get up to speed as to what we're doing, because we are like part 8 or 9 of this tutorial series. So we have already done a lot in terms of building this web application that we're working on. Today's lecture, we're going to be focusing on a social media automation, and especially Python automation. We will do another video on Instagram automation, perhaps next week, Wednesday, because this Twitter one is going to take us a long time just to get it completed, all right? So these are the steps that we're going to be covering in this lecture today, all right? So, I've got a video on this channel where I talk about social media automation using things like Hootsuite, later, or similar type of application. But the problem with those type of applications is that first of all, they're not free. A lot of them will offer you like a free trial, but the moment you need to do anything really useful, you have to pay for them. But to be honest, I don't mind paying to have that kind of service. The real problem that I actually have with those kind of systems is that there is very limited automation you can really do. You still have to be there every week or every month, whenever it is, to schedule your tweets manually on their system, all right? And if you forget it and you're busy with something else, it's just the same sort of trouble. And I'm trying to get away from that, and I'm trying to create a system that will actually tweet for me on my behalf, all right? And make sure that my social media is engaged and that it's happening, that I'm producing 1 or 2 tweets a day, all right? So that's what we're trying to do, okay? We are going to build a Twitter bot, okay? So it's an automated Twitter posting system using Python and a Python library called Tweepy that you probably would have seen already if you've seen all the videos on our channel. But we're going to customize it specifically for our web application so that it can tweet to our users all the latest jobs that we are posting, all right? So all the latest jobs that we are posting, we also want to tweet them on our social media channels so that people can find those jobs, and perhaps it can link them back to our website, and they can apply on our website, and then they can get to know our web application is working. And why you want to do something like this is, the majority of traffic on the internet is on social media. I think I've shared these statistics before in the past that the top 10 most watched the top 10 websites on the internet that get the most visitors, 8 out of 10 of them are social media. So it's your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, your YouTube. Those are the websites that have the majority of traffic. So if you are starting out and you want to drive organic traffic to your website, social media is one of the best ways to do it. And if you are a Python developer already, why must you sit in front of your Twitter every day posting tweets when you can just write a script to do it for you, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start first of all by creating our API keys from Twitter that you will need, because we will be using a Twitte API, but instead of coding the Twitte API ourselves, we will use a library that is called the Tweepy that already has a Twitte API into it, and we're just gonna sort of be able to make a couple of calls with 1 or 2 lines of code. So it's very, very simple, and you'll see what I'm talking about later on, okay? And I just want to remind you, we are working from our DigitalOcean Droplet. That's how we've been doing all our tutorials, and we're gonna continue in that same fashion because our job data will be on the same Droplet, and it will be easier for us to access it so that we can tweet it, all right? But we are not going to be building this inside of the Django application. We will be building it outside of the Django application, but it will be in the same virtual machine of where the Django application is based, and you'll see how we're going to do it later on, okay? Then I'm going to show you how to send a couple of tweets using the API just to see how it works, and I'll take you through that API documentation so you can see all the things that you can do with that API. And then after that, we're going to now go and do something specific. So a lot of the Twitte API, Tweepy courses will end here. We're going to take it a step further and use all of that knowledge and all of that Twitte API coding and figure out how is it applicable to our specific web application. So if you had a website and you had something, a project, whether it's a media marketing project, whatever it is, and you wanted to use the API, how would you apply it to create tweets that are relevant to you, but also to create a script that is talking to exactly what you want to send to your audience, and then finally how to schedule and automate the script that it runs on its own. So lucky for us, we are already working on the DigitalOcean Droplet, which means it is a virtual machine that is online, that is always on. So when we write a script on this virtual machine and we run it, it's going to run day and night. We can log out of the virtual machine and be doing other things, and the script will be running 24/7. And that's what you want for something like a Twitter bot, okay? If you're creating something like a Twitter bot, even though you can run it on your own personal computer, you need to run it 24/7 if you want it to be doing something very useful. And you're going to need something like a virtual machine to do it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that with DigitalOcean. So let's get started. So let's get started with creating our Twitter bot, using the Python library called a Tweepy. Now, if you go to the Tweepy documentation website, and I will link this in the description for you. This link over here, when you get right to the top, you have a code. This is like a hello world of Tweepy, right? It's the minimalistic code. It just shows you everything that you need to at least send one tweet, okay? So you'll see over there that you need to have what they call a consumer key, a consumer secret. And you need an access token and an access token secret, okay? And to get all of this, you need to go to the Twitter website to do this, okay? So for our account that we're going to be working with, is this careers portal that we want to automate tweets for. I need to first of all create a developer's account. And once I've created a developer's account, then I can create an app. And then from that app, I'll be able to get these required items: the consumer key, secret, access token, and access secret, okay? So let me show you how to go about doing that. First of all, it's important that at least you are logged into your Twitter account before you start this, because Twitter does a lot of work in the background, checking your cookies and everything that you're logged in. So this just helps the process, okay? And then you need to go to this website, https dev.twitter.com apps.new. I know when you're searching for this the first time, I spent like a good couple of minutes just to try and find this website. But if you want to go directly to the new apps, you'll do that. And when you get here, the first time you come here, you don't even have a developer's account, but certainly you don't have any apps, all right? So create that button that says create new app, and then it will ask you to create a developer's account before you can continue. And then there's a couple of options. You want to do it for a professional, hobbyist, or academic, okay? So this is up to you, but I think I'll go with hobbyist, all right? And then you can choose between the two. Are you building a tool, exploring the API, or we're making a bot? All right, so I'm going to click, I'm making a bot over there, and then so that's a standard application. Let's see what this gives you. Standard application, okay, it's pretty much the same. And when you get here, you will have to select if this is the username that you're creating this bot for, careers portal, if this is your email address that you created this account with, and everything else, okay? But then they're very strict nowadays with bots because people have been abusing the system. So you go through a lot of steps having to specify exactly what you're going to be doing with your bot, okay? Technically, it's allowed to build bots on Twitter. I mean, Twitter has the system for it. It created the API for it. This is a Twitte API that we're going to be using. This is not something off the black market. So the system allows for you to be able to do this, but at the same time, you have to use restraint, and I have to warn you before you proceed with this is that you have to be reasonable, okay? Don't use the bot to abuse the system, to over, spam people, because you will get blocked as well, and you can get your account suspended or blacklisted, okay? So as much as you're creating a bot, do reasonable things. Like if you're gonna tweet once or twice a day with a bot, that's reasonable, okay? If you're going to follow 1 or 2, 3 people a day that's relevant to your industry, that's a day. But if you're gonna use a bot to like message people and spam people, you're gonna get into trouble with Twitter, okay? So you have to be specific, and also aggregating data for purposes that's not aligned with Twitter policies, you're gonna get into trouble with that as well, okay? So what must you call me? I think just call me Bertha. That's all right. What country do I live in? I live in South Africa. So let's pick that. And what is your current skill level? I'm gonna say I've got some experience. I don't want updates, and let's continue. Okay, in your words, what are you going to do with this bot? And be thorough. And you'll see at the bottom here, you have to put in at least 200 characters. Okay, I am going to be using you must click yes. But all of these things, once you click yes on them, your application process is going to go through a manual verification, because they're going to want to know who you are. What are you building this for? What company are you? Because Twitter is very strict these days with allowing people just access to their data, because people have been using and misusing this data for all the wrong reasons, trying to get sentiments, especially with all the machinery, with all the technology nowadays, with AI being able to analyze a lot. Twitter is very strict with how you can use their APIs, all right? So I'm definitely not going to be analyzing data. Okay, I'm not going to do all of that. Let me see. Will you use app to tweet, retweet, like, follow, or direct message functionality? Let me say no. You plan to tweet, aggregate data? No. Will your product, service analyze or make Twitter content derived from da da da? I'm gonna say no over there, and then proceed. Right. All right, that's my basic information. Let's go next. And then it will give you the developer agreement policy that you must read in great detail. This is very, very important, because this is the kind of thing that can get you suspended or banned, and you don't want that, okay? So I've read this a couple of times, because I've created a couple of Twitter bots. I know what's in here, and I think when there's updates they send me, but I come here a lot, so I know when there's updates, so I'm not going to read this in here. Just remember that at the bottom of it, once you've read each and every single page, go to the bottom and just click that you have read the documentation there. All right, and then you can submit your application. All right, so once you've done that, they're going to ask you to verify your email. All right, so I'm going to quickly go to my mailing account, to my email account, and then click on that verification to verify my email address. Okay, so this is the email that you're going to get from Twitter. All right, hi Careers Portal South Africa. Thank you for applying for your Twitter developer account. Please click this button to confirm your email. All right, and as soon as you do that, it will take you back to Twitter, and then it will say that your email address has been verified. Success, your email has been verified. Awesome, okay. So once you've done that, now you should be able to create a new app, okay. So go over here to a new project. All right, so I think we need to start by creating a new project. Okay, so I'm going to call this careers tweets. Okay, what describes you? Below, find options on how to intend to use the Twitter developer platform. So I'm definitely making a bot. All right, so next. All right, so click next. The app name is going to be, what did I call it? A careers tweet. Okay, so basically once you've done that, you're going to come to this page where you're going to get your access keys and your access tokens. All right, so I have to block this out so that you don't see what's in here, but basically this is where your API key will be. All right, so you can just copy this API key and copy the API token. All right, let's go to the bottom, and then API secret and bearer token, and then you can set up your app. this is our virtual machine. All right, we only have one app running on this virtual machine. Okay, it's the cheapest one that you can get. All right, and we got it from DigitalOcean. All right, and I'm gonna link DigitalOcean below, a link that you can use on DigitalOcean and get a discount for starting out there. But this is really amazing. I mean, I know people love what AWS and all sorts of other cloud applications, but DigitalOcean by far is one of the most amazing ones that I've come across. All right. And if you go over there and you go under products, you're going to find that droplets over there. This is what we want, okay? So you can start by $5 a month. And the droplet I'm using that I created the $5 a month droplet. And I'm paying less than 100 rands literally for this, okay? But obviously for small application like a Twitter bot, you can get away with that. If your application gets big and you're building a really big web app, you're going to have to perhaps upgrade it. But for the purposes of what we're doing today, and when you're if you're just creating a Twitter bot, the $5 one is sufficient for coding for a Twitter bot, okay? And if you look at the bottom here, when you install your Twitter bot, okay, make sure you pick Ubuntu 20.0 for the latest Ubuntu installation, okay? That's the one that you want if you want to follow along with what we're doing over here, because Ubuntu 20.04 comes pre-installed with Python 3, okay? So it comes already with Python 3 inside, and you will not have to go through the process of installing Python 3. You'll only have to work on installing the virtual environment and so forth and so forth. And I will also link in the description below a written tutorial of everything that I'm going through here today. So I've written a tutorial on Medium, so I've got a Medium article. I will link it in the description below, and it will take you through step by step everything you need to do, okay, in case you forget something over here. So there's a section there, how to set up the development environment, which is what I'm going to take you through now. But because I already have a droplet, I'm not going to go through the entire process because I already have a droplet that I'm using for my Django app, okay? So if you are not doing the Django app and you're just interested in the Twitter, you are going to have to start up your droplet from scratch. So read up on that tutorial, all right, and everything that you need to do over there, and make sure that you have the right Python version. All right, so if I click over, if I copy this and I paste that, this is a code for trying to find what Python version I'm running. You'll see I'm running Python 3.8.5, and this was automatically installed with my droplet. And this is what you want, okay, on your machine, so that you can do it. But if you add any other version of Python, it probably still work, but Python 3 is one of the best. And the tutorial I'm doing, you will follow it better if you're working with Python 3, okay? So once you've done that, you need to then go and install Python 3 pip, which I've already done, all right? So I'm not going to do this. And then the development tools, you need to do that as well. And then after that, you need to install your virtual environment, okay? So this is where I'm going to start, because I already have all of that, but I'm going to create a new virtual environment so that I can work from. What is a virtual environment? The way Python works, right? You install Python, and Python comes like as a program that has certain methods that are pre-installed with the program. But then there are specific methods and specific libraries, like Tweepy, for example. Tweepy is a library, right? And depending on the app that you're building, some of these libraries are specific, and therefore Python doesn't ship with all of them. So depending on what your application is going to do, you're going to choose a library that you want to work with for that, okay? And every time you install a library, you use a pip, okay, which is the package manager, right? And if I just do pip install a Tweepy, like if I just type pip install Tweepy like that, it's going to install the Tweepy library in the entire virtual machine. All right, so the whole virtual machine will have Tweepy installed. It will install it under the library of the entire machine, right? And that might be problematic, because if in future, let's say Tweepy gets upgraded, and I'm doing a project on Tweepy that was built on Tweepy version that I installed at the time when I did it, but then Tweepy got upgraded and then it broke some of the code, you're going to find that now I need a different version of Tweepy, for example, to work with a different Python code, right? And it will be problematic if my entire machine is on one version of Tweepy. So what we programmers like to do, what is good practice, is that every time you do a project, you want to separate the libraries for that project in one place, so that whatever version you're running when you build your project continues to run, and you don't break anything if those versions get upgraded, or if you run another project on the same machine and perhaps you need a different version of the same library. And that happens. You have libraries that have different versions, and sometimes you change the version and it breaks your code, because versions are written differently with different versions of Python and so forth and so forth. So Python gets upgraded, everything gets upgraded, the version gets upgraded, and you don't want to every time have to change your code and figure out what changed in the library if you're using like 10 different libraries every time things change. So what you want is within a project, you want to keep your libraries in one place, okay? Then you create an environment for just that project. All right, so I could install Tweepy for just my project now in my own environment. Then when I'm done and 3 months down the line, another client gives me another project and I need to use other libraries, I'm going to create another environment just for that project. And I could have one machine that has maybe 5 different projects running on it, and they're all running on their own environments and they're not connected, so they don't interact with each other. So they don't like sort of, break or interact with each other. They're like separate. It's like keeping, if you have 2 wives and you want to keep them in separate houses and you don't want them to meet each other because you're going to have issues. Something similar to that, right? So we're going to create our own folder and our own virtual environment for our Python Tweepy project. If you've been following with us, you would know exactly how to do this because we've done this when we got started with our Django project. So it's going to be the similar approach, right? So I'm going to clear this so I can start at the bottom of the list. And you can see this is where our Scholar project is. This is where the Python, our Django project is. I won't create this inside of the Django project. I'm going to create a whole new folder. So I'm going to say mkdir. This is the code for creating a new project, a new folder, and I'm going to call this Twitter. Actually, I'm going to call this social because we're going to create the Instagram project in here as well, right? So I'm going to call this social, and then I will end cd into social, right? So we're going to do the exact same thing we're doing now for Instagram. We're going to automate Instagram like we're doing with Twitter, and then we will have 2 codes running, one doing Twitter, one doing Instagram, and they'll be running it automatically, and I can just sit and relax and not have to worry about making sure that I'm tweeting every single hour, all right? Then I'm going to say enter. So I'm now inside social. You'll see there's nothing in there. So this is where I want to create my virtual environment inside of the project I'm working from, all right? So I'm going to use this code over here, virtual environment Twitter env, all right? Because I'm going to call my virtual environment Twitter env, right? So I'm going to put that in there, and it's going to create the virtual environment. If I list in there, I will see there is a folder called Twitter env. A virtual environment is basically a folder like that. And then I need to activate it because now everything I'm doing from now, I will be doing it inside of the virtual environment. So to activate the virtual environment, I need to run this code over there. It's basically source the name of your virtual environment /bin/activate. That's all you need to do. All right, so I'm going to do that. And if your virtual environment is successfully activated, you will see the name inside brackets at the beginning of your command line prompt. This is how you know that you are working inside of virtual environment. So even if I cd'd out of here and I'm back in the root of my project, right, and I clear and I'm not even in the same project, and I did pip install Tweepy, right, which is the library that we need, and you need to run it. It doesn't matter where I'm going to be running this from, okay? I am in the virtual environment. It will install it inside of the virtual environment, all right? And that's what we want, okay? So I'm going to go back and cd ls cd dev ls cd scholar ls cd social. This is where we want to work from, okay? So I'm going to clear in here. And this is where we want to work from, all right? So once we get in here, I want to create, you need to create a folder called data because we're going to keep all our data files in there, all right? So just do mkdir data, all right? Then we need to create another folder that is called, anyway, let me just remind myself all the folders we need to create. So I'm going to just close this. This is all my files over here. We will get into this coding later. So we need a folder called data, and we need a folder called scrapper. All right, so let's do that. Data scrapper. Okay, so inside this folder called scrapper is where we will make sure that we get all our scrapping done and all our files sorted out so that we can get the data that we need to be tweeting, and then we will store it inside of the data folder, right? And then all the programs that we need to run are these ones over here, but we'll create them as we go along. All right, so once you've done that, that's okay. Then let's get started with our Tweepy library. Okay, so these lines of code that's over here, I'm just gonna push this back so it doesn't confuse you, right? right? So we need two things. We need to have this, what they call the config.py. So I'm going to just do that, nano config.py, right? So this is where you're going to keep all of your Twitter, API keys and whatever, so that you don't keep them in the same folder as, so it's good practice not to keep them in the same folder that you're running with, and then make sure that you git ignore this file so that you do not include it in Git, so that when you share your documents with other people, you're not sharing the API keys as well, all right? So nano config.py will open a file called config.py, and in here you need to save these things, okay? So the first one is your API key. So I can just copy all of this as is like that, right? Actually, no, let me not do it like that. This will take me longer. So the first one is your API key, all right? So when we created our, Python, our development account with Twitter, we got all of these, remember? So go in and paste your API key in there, all right? And then the next one is your API secret, all right? And put it in there as well. Put in your API secret, all right? And then the third one is your access token, all right? So create a new access token and paste it in there, all right? And then after that, you need to have your access key, your access secret, access token secret. What am I saying? Access token secret, all right? In a new line, of course. All right, and then go in and paste in your access token secret in that file called config.py. When you're done that, you're going to do Control X. Then it's going to ask you, do you want to save the buffer? Then you say yes, and then that file, and then it asks you name to write file is config.py. Then you click enter, and then that file has been saved. If you do ls again, you will see now you have these two folders that you created, scrapper and data, and then you have a new file called config.py. If you do nano again, config.py is going to reopen that file. Let me do a Control X and okay, so I got the spelling wrong over here. Okay, all right. So nano config.py. That's what you need, all right? So paste all of that in there again and then save it, all right? So I need to remove this one. I got the spelling wrong. This is not properly spelled, config.py. So when you're doing this, please spell it correctly, because we're going to have to import it later on, and it's going to have to... So let me just remove this one. RM removes the file, all right? I'm going to just remove this one that has the wrong spelling, all right? And then I'm going to nano, again, config. All right, and then I'm gonna paste all of these things in here, all right? And then I'm gonna save, modified buffer, say yes, right, config.py, yes, and click enter. And if you click ls, that file should now be there again, all right? And then data and scrapper is the folders you created. They're currently empty, and Twitter env is your development environment, okay? Now the next file you wanna create is gonna be called twitter.py. Actually, we're going to call it main.py, all right? So let's do nano main.py, all right? And then inside of this file, we're going to start by importing Tweepy and importing random, all right? So go at the top of the file and type this, import Tweepy. Tweepy is just a library that we're going to be using to send all our tweets. We've just installed Tweepy when we started inside of our virtual environment. It's the first library we installed, all right? Just make sure you import it at the top over there. File. These are the only couple of lines of code that you need to set up your API object. All right. You use the OAuth handler to create an authentication object. All right, and you're gonna pass in your API key and your API secret. Remember, the API key and API secret we have saved inside of the config file. So what we do over there at the top, we say import config. You need to make sure that the config file is in the same directory where your main file is, and then if you just say import config, it will import that file as it is. Therefore, each and every single element that's saved inside of the config file, you can access. Okay, you can access all the variables, classes, everything that are saved in there once you import them. Tweepy is exactly the same thing. When we say library, it's actually just documents and files, all right? And when we import them at the top, it just means that all that code that was written in those documents and those files, we can just access them by importing the file. We're doing the exact same thing here. all right, on a smaller scale. So we have written our config variables inside of the file, then we import the file, and then we can then access the API key, the API secret, and then you need to then set access token with the access token and the access token secrets. This is all you need to set up your authentication, right? Then after you've done that, then you say API is Tweepy.api, so you create the API object. So this API object is the one we will always call to run specific functions, whether we are sending a tweet, or we are following somebody, or we are reading tweets, or we are retweeting. We are always going to be working off the API object. So the first thing that you create is that API object. And to create that API object, you just sort of use the API class inside of Tweepy, and then you pass in auth, all right? So you'll see in some cases this function written like this, all right? API is equals to this, like that, all right? And then it'll have auth inside, all right? This is exactly the same thing as what we're doing over here. This will also work, okay? So you can also write it like that. And if we go through the Tweepy documentation over there, let me just find it, all right? So this is installation and this is getting started. You will see inside the Tweepy documentation, you have, you create the auth object by using the auth handler with the consumer key, consumer secret, and then you say auth set access token, then you put in the access token, and then you just say API is Tweepy.api auth, okay? This is all you need to set up your API object. So I've added a couple extra variables over here just to help me out so I don't get into problems, especially with limits issues. And we're going to discuss a little bit about limits later on, okay? So I've just added this wait on limit time and wait on rate limit notify, just extra variables to, if I go over the limits, okay, then it just stops doing the work instead of maybe like keep forcing it or crashing it or whatever. So I don't get into trouble with Twitter with getting banned, right? So even though Twitter gives you this API, and we'll get into the limits discussion later on, even though Twitter gives you this API, right? You have limits, okay? I can send a tweet, yes, okay, but I can't send 1 million tweets or like 1,000 tweets a minute, right? I can't do that. The moment I do that, Twitter is gonna ban me first of all, and the app, API itself won't actually allow me. Like it will tell me, okay, you've exceeded your tweets, whatever, and it will stop. So you are given specific limits, and the limits that you're given, I think, depends also on your account. So if you have, it sort of works the same way as, if you're just new, you can only follow like only 100 people at a time. But if you've had your account for longer and you have 1,000 followers, you can follow up to 1,000 people. But if you have 10,000 followers, you can follow up to 10,000 people. If you have 1 million followers, you can follow up to 1 million people. But if I only had 100 followers, I cannot follow 1 million people. I know Twitter has those crazy limits, but those limits apply as well inside of the API in terms of the kind of tweets and everything you do. They create this API to simplify your life as a developer, but at the same time, they don't want you to abuse the system and spam people and over exceed because once you write code, code can do anything. I can write code to send 1,000 tweets a minute, but you shouldn't do it because you're gonna get into trouble with a Twitter, right? So I won't do it like that. I'll do it like this, all right? So the first thing that we're gonna run is this one over here, all right? So we're gonna run a function to test to look for public tweets on my timeline, so I can print out the tweets that I have on my timeline. And I can just show you how to do this, and then I'll show you as well how to get tweets on somebody else's timeline, all right? And then later on we'll discuss a little bit about the limit status, okay? But before we get to that, I want to show you, if you wanted to know where I got these functions from, if you want to know all the things that Tweepy can do inside of the Tweepy documentation, I'll just show that to you quickly, all right? So I'll link this in the description below as well, so that you can get to this website, and you can see I'm getting started. This is like the hello world of Twitter, okay? You can do that over there, and this is exactly the first code that I'm gonna write: the public tweets API home timeline, and then for tweeting public tweets, print tweet.text, all right? So I'm gonna actually just copy this, all right, and just show you exactly the hello world function that's in there, all right? And then we'll probably do something similar to that as well. All right, but this is the getting started. But once you get over this, right, there's authentication tutorial, code snippets, cursor tutorial, and all sorts of things over there, right? But if you want to know all the API specific, the API calls that you can make, all right, skip all of that and just go to the bottom, Twitte.api, Twitte API wrapper, all right, and click on that. Okay, and then you will see all the different functions that you can run with the API, because this is what we're creating over here, the API object, right? So this documentation over there shows you all the things you can do. So you'll see your timeline methods, for example. Okay, that's the first thing that you see. Timeline methods is all the functions you can run to get information on the timeline, and this documentation is very well written. So you will see API home.timeline, and then you will see all the things, all the variables you can enter, and what it returns. It returns to you a status object. So for example, if you wanted to retweet a tweet, you would need the ID of the tweet, right? So you would maybe get it from the timeline, and then you would be able to get from the status object, find the ID or whatever of the tweet, then you can retweet it. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I'm going a bit ahead of myself, but that's how, for example, you find the ID of a tweet, right? And then you can do statuses lookup, like if you had an ID of a tweet, you can find some more information about the statuses, all right? You know, user timeline, you know, like this is the function we're going to run. It's one of the functions we're going to test over there, user timeline. If you had a specific user that you're interested in, we're going to work with Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. He just released some, you know, State of the Nation address. Perhaps he's tweeting something interesting. We're going to print out all his tweets on his timeline and see what it is he's tweeting about, all right? So this is what that function over there does, all right? And then you'll have retweets of me. You can do that, and you return. And also there's a limit in this as well, all right? If you do this, it returns 20, and that's all it's going to return. It's not going to return more than 20, all right? You can go into pagination and go to the next page and the next page if you read more over here on cursor tutorial, because it shows you how to do, you know, to work. If you wanted to perhaps iterate through somebody's followers, the entire list, and it returns only 20 the first time, but you wanted to get all the other ones, you know, you can use pagination, but I'm not going to cover that in this because this is not an involved Tweety tutorial. I'm just showing you a little bit of the basics now, but then we want to apply Tweepy to our specific project and finish up what it is we want to do with Tweepy or Twitter posting, right? And then, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm going to link this link, and when you have time, then you can go through all of this. You can see all the functions you can run. So basically, what I'm doing, all the functions I'm going to be running and using, it's just functions that I got from the documentation that you can also go through and read. Okay, so I've just off camera gone and entered my credentials, my Twitter credentials, so that this code will run. Okay, before you enter the credentials, you won't find them. And then after I've done that, I've just added the line at the bottom here that says public tweets API home timeline. So I'm going to be getting tweets from my own timeline. It will only return 20 tweets at a time. All right, and then from those tweets in my timeline, I'm just going to print for tweet in public tweets, print tweet text. So I'm just going to print the text of that tweet, all right? Then I'm going to close this and say yes, all right? And then just run this Python main.py. Just to make sure, this will also just make sure that everything is installed properly, Tweepy is running, that my credentials are correct, and that everything is good to go for the rest of our tutorial, all right? AI, blah, blah, blah. There's some tweet links, right? So it looks like at least my credentials are working properly. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and now do the exact same thing for Maposa's tweets, all right? So I'm going to now, you can do this for any username. So if you were on Twitter, and let's say we open Twitter. So this is my Twitter account, right? And I'm going to go to home of my Twitter account over there, right? I definitely have more than 4 tweets that it's printing out on my timeline, but it doesn't matter. But let's say you wanted to print somebody's tweets, like for example, you wanted to print News 24. So you need to know what the username is, News 24. Maybe let's change that and make this News 24, right? News 24. So that's what you put in there. What you put in there is the username of the person whose tweets you want to see, all right? So we can just copy all of this. Okay, so Maposa tweets is that for tweet in Maposa's tweets. Right, so let's copy all of that and let's paste it. Let's say nano main.py and open up that nano main.py. And I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to highlight this out in Python. You can just put in like the hashtag in front of whatever the line, and then it'll highlight it out, and then that code in that line is not going to run, so that you can unhighlight it later on. and then paste that, so that we show it's not going to be my poster street, it's going to be news 24, but it doesn't matter. And then when you run the program, you just say python main.py. And always, if you're going to be running a Python file, make sure you are in the Twitter in the virtual environment that otherwise it won't find your libraries. Okay, so let's do python main.py. All right, so I want to run this function over here. All right, so I want to show you the rates, okay, the rate limit. All right, and then I'm just going to print the limits. All right, so that you can see that you are limited according to by Twitter and what those limits are. And basically, this is a good practice before you run this API, is to run your rate limits so that you can see what your limitations are, and that you don't abuse or you don't go above them, so that you don't even get flagged in the first place. All right, and then I can print them and I can see what those limits are. All right, so let's close this and then let's run Python and see how far we've been going. Okay, so it's gonna send you a whole JSON object, which is you're gonna have to try and find a way to pass through it. But one thing you can do is you can save it as a JSON file, and then you can pass it later in your own time, or print it out and then look through it. All right, but basically you can see over here. All right, so tweets, metrics, private, you're limited to 15. Okay, and it resets after this amount of time. All right. The tweet, stream, filter, rules, instance is all of that, right? So limit remaining 50, reset, labs, version, tweets, whatever. So these are all the limits that you have on all the things you can do: direct messaging, broadcasting, whatever. If you want to see all of that, direct messages, subscribers, show, you are limited. You can only do it like 180 and you're remaining 180. So I haven't been abusing my API. It's fairly new, right? Tweet, search, streams, delete, you're limited to 450. Tweet, search, streams, rules, post, all right, you're limited to 450. And you can see what you already have, so you can even write code before you run a function to check the limits, so that you're within limits, and then do that. So a good thing to do with this, for example, would be to save this file once you get it, to save it as a JSON object inside of your data over there. All right, and I think I did that earlier on. Oh no, this was I copied and pasted it. I didn't save it because this is my personal computer and this is my virtual server. Right, so I think I saved it on my virtual server the first time. But actually, let me show you quickly how you can do that. All right. All right, there's a function I have over here is it over there or is it in tweet data? It's this one over here. There it is. All right, so I'm going to paste this. Where am I? Yeah, okay. I can paste this at the top there, right? All right, so it's a function that says write JSON, okay? And this function relies on the JSON library, so you have to import it at the top, all right? So you have to say import JSON like that, and then it opens the file, all right, a file path, and then with that file path you can save JSON dumped version of whatever it is, the data that you want. Okay, so what you can do over here, when you get this limit, it's returned as a JSON object. You can see this is a JSON object, right? It starts from there with an open curly braces, and it ends over there with closed curly braces, right? So you can use this function like that. You can say write JSON, and then you have to enter the file path and the data. So you have to create the file path, all right? And the file path has to be an absolute path, all right? So if, for example, you wanted to save the file in here, you can just copy over there, where it starts, all right? And then that you would have to say home, because we are on a Ubuntu machine, so it starts with home. If it's online on MacBook, whatever, it works differently, right? You would say you are on home, and then you would say you need your username, all right? So my username is Zatosh, like that. So home Zatosh, you can put that in space of that little curly in front, and then after that you can paste the rest of the code, and then it will save exactly where we are. But we want to save it in social. Let's say we want to save it inside of the data folder which we just created, so you can put data in front there, and then after that you'll put in the file name. Okay, so we can say in there the file name is I want to know what my limits.json JSON are. Okay, so you need a file called limits.json inside of the data folder, inside of the social folder. So this is where we are inside of the social folder, right? So I'm gonna ls and you'll see the data folder in there. So let's clear so it comes at the top. Clear. It comes at the top, and then we can cd data. All right, and then we are now in the data folder. There's nothing in here. You need to make sure this file exists because JSON will throw this will throw an error if the file is not there. So you can just create it. Okay, even if it's empty, you can just say nano touch. You can use touch to just create a file. If you say nano, it's gonna open it. So you can say touch limits.json. Okay, and if you ls, you see that file exists inside of the data folder. Okay, you don't have to put anything inside. You can just create it and have it blank like that, right? And then you know that this path in this file exists. And then the data that you want to save is this limit, all right? So write JSON file path data, right? So write JSON, you need to enter the file path, all right? And limits. Limits is the data that you want to enter in there, right? So I've already run these functions over here. I'm going to delete them. We don't need them. All right, so what we're doing basically now is that we have the right JSON, all right, we have the auth, we're creating the API, and then we're quickly checking our limits, and then we've created the file path, and we're just running this function, which is the one we have over there, and we have imported JSON. So JSON, random, and all these other ones, you don't have to do pip install. Like I said, remember I mentioned at the beginning that Python does ship with the basic common libraries, which most people will use. Most people use JSON random. It's a common library. It will ship automatically with Python. But something specific like Tweepy is very specialized to the application you're building. Usually those are the ones you have to install yourself. So I'm going to just copy this file as it is, right? And usually when I want to change a lot of details on a file, instead of editing it in the virtual machine, which is much complicated, much harder, I just sort of like remove the existing file. And you can remove a file by clicking rm main.py, remove that existing file, and then I'll go nano main.py, all right, and then it will be a blank file now because you remove the old one, and then just paste what you wanted to paste, and then it will be the new stuff, and then you can just click and close that, and then you can do python main.py like that. And then you won't see anything because you're not printing anything out. But if you had errors, the errors would have shown over there. All right. So what you need to do then, you can cd into your data. All right. And then you can nano limits.json. All right. And you'll see now that file has something in it. Nano opens a file. You'll see it has saved all these things. It shows you access token. All right. Which I'm going to change now that it's displayed it to you. Resources, lists, whatever, and then you can if it was you're doing this in a MacBook, you would be able to or you can print these things out, and you can use this now to interrogate the data, and you can get it once in a day perhaps and see what's there, and just familiarize yourself with what it is you are allowed to do. All right, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to clear this, right, and then let's continue with the rest of the tutorial. So in this next part of the tutorial, I want to show you quickly how to send a tweet, all right? And I'm going to show you how to send two types of tweets, okay? The first type of tweet will be just a normal tweet with the text, and then the next type of tweet will be a tweet with an image, all right? Which is technically the type of tweets you would be sending on using Tweepy, right? And for that, I've got two things, all right? Okay, so I need to create also the hashtags, all right? So, but we'll get to that later, okay? So the first thing is the messages, right? These are the messages that I want to go into the tweets, okay? And when you're doing something like automating your tweets, you have to make sure that you have different types of messages that you are tweeting all the time. You can't just create a string and then tweet that string and then put it on a schedule to tweet the same string every 2-3 hours or whatever. Okay, Tweepy number one will crash and it will not allow you to tweet the same tweet over and over again. But also, the API, the reason why Tweepy will crash is because the Python, the actual Twitte API itself doesn't allow you to tweet subsequent tweets that are similar using the API, because they don't want people to just automate the same message and tweet it 100 times a day. spam people with it, all right? So the number one important thing that will get you blocked very quick, it won't even get you blocked because Tweepy won't even do it in the first place, is to tweet the same tweet again. So when you want to automate a tweeting service, you want to have a variety of potential tweets you can tweet that you want to send out. And then you put them in a list, something like this. And then you're going to randomly select from that tweet what you want to tweet. Or you can have a tweet for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So for example, instead of doing this and it's a random selection, you could have Monday is equals to this, and then you put the tweet you're going to tweet on Monday. Okay, Tuesday is equals to that, and then you put the tweet you're going to put on Monday, blah 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 blah, and then you would schedule the Monday tweet to go on a Monday, the Tuesday tweet on a Tuesday, the Wednesday, whatever. But then you would have to be here every week to change your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But a way you could do this is perhaps you could have it in the data folder, all right, and you could save in the data folder, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you'd only need to change the data folder, and then you would read the data folder from here. That's the first option that you've got. But in my specific case, what I prefer to do is to just have a list of random tweets that I could tweet that are not specific to any day of the week, right? And then when I create my tweet, I randomly select from this list, okay? And the longer this list is, you want it to be at least, 20 upwards, so that the random selector cannot select the same tweet twice. All right, so maybe 30 upwards. The longer the list, the better off, and the more realistic you look also to your audience, because also on Twitter, you don't want your followers to notice that this person is sending us the same tweet every day. You don't want that. You don't want that as well, because it will just damage what you're trying to do. So maybe do schedule it properly, like Monday, Tuesday, whatever tweets for the day or whatever. How you do it, it's up to you. But once you have the message that you want to send, I wanted to include an emoji as well and show you how you can include an emoji inside of a message, right? So what I like to get, I get my emojis from this website, Emojipedia, all right? If you go to Emojipedia and you can find whatever emoji that you like, all right? Click on it. Let's say you want to do the fire emoji, all right? And you click on the fire emoji, you on the page, you would have to just go there where it is and click copy. And then once you've copied it, and you come to your string, you can just paste it like that. That's your fire emoji. All right. Latest, hottest, job info, any day inspiration, careers portal. All right, any day is inspiration day. I want to put the fire emoji on every single line. Never give up, your life starts now. Never give up. Oh goodness. Okay. So let's copy it again. All right, let's copy it again. Never. Now put the fires on the other side of this. Always believe in yourself. Yes. Put a fire there. Life is too short. Life is not short, it's way too long. I'll put a fire in there. We live in amazing times. Put 3 fires. Remember to sanitize every day. Okay, we'll put some fires in there. All right. So you can just paste your emojis like that, but you need to include this coding UTF-8 at the top, exactly the way I've written it. Okay, so there's a hash, a space, minus, star, minus, space, coding, semicolon, space, UTF-8. Space, minus, star, minus, right? Then once you've done that, we'll get to the image one later, all right? So let me actually X this and put it down there. All right, so we'll get to the image one later. Okay, so to update your status, basically, this is all you need. A message, random choice messages, right? So random choice messages will select from this messages list a random message, all right? Or you could also just say MSG is equals to whatever the message you want to tweet, right? This will also work, right? Whatever the message you want to tweet, you just put it in a string like that. In my case, I wanted to select randomly from here, and then you need to make sure you've imported random at the top over there. So random choice just selects randomly from the list, okay? Tags, I've called it a random sample, all right? Now I don't have tags, and I'm gonna create that quickly. So random tags, and I need to call these hashtags, right? copy. I'm gonna go there and click hashtags. Again, you need to put them in a list, all right? And let me go into Twitter and see what are the latest hashtags in Twitter right now. Okay, you have, can I copy this? Skumba, Barcelona. All right, so I'm gonna say Barcelona. What is the other one? Skumba. Okay, so you can figure out what are the latest tags, or you can add tags related to, you know, I don't know, the Queen essay. These are usually popular hashtags on Twitter. You can figure out what you wanna you know, include in here. You can have jobs, which our job website is gonna be related to that. You can have Mzansi. You can have South Africa. All right, and then you can choose whether you want something to be like a hashtag like that, or just the word, and both of them work on Twitter. I mean, if the popular word is Kumba without the hashtag in front of it, that will also be fine. Jobs, I want it with a hashtag. The Queen essay, I want it with a hashtag. Mzansi, I want it with a hashtag. Actually, I want all of these to be a hashtag, okay? So once you have a list, and also this hashtag list, make it as long as you want, but also make it specific to your topic. So if I, for example, tweet a lot of stuff about Python, you know, and I do that on my Twitter account, I'll have Python programming, Python development, Python developers, Python web application, Python Django, Python whatever, all the hashtags you know about Python, you would include them in here so that it can include any of these hashtags. But obviously, depending on the length of your tweet, you might not be able to include all of them, hence the sample, right? So what this function does, it's different from random choice. Random choice returns one string, right? Random sample returns a list, and a list of objects based on what the number you've put over there, okay? So if I want random sample and I put 2 over there, it will sample over this list of hashtags and it will return only 2 hashtags randomly from this list. If I wanted it to return 3, I would say random hashtag and I would put 3 in there and it will return 3 hashtags, all right? So this returns a list, this returns a string. Therefore, once you've done that, I want to add these hashtags to my string. Okay, so how I do that is I'll say for tag in tags, because this tag is a list, I can iterate through that list. I'm just going to append the tag at the end of my string. So I'm going to say MSG. I'm going to put in a little bit of a space because after this, there's no space. I don't want the hashtag to just be right at the end. I want to have like a little bit of a space. And then after the space, it will add the tag, all right? So it will add a space and add the first tag, the second tag, based on random selection from this hashtag list. So once I've done that, then I will double check that my message length is less than 160 characters. This is important because Twitter limits you to 160 characters. What will happen if you have a string that is more than 160 characters is that Tweepy will just give it an exception and an error. Tweepy will crash and it will give you an exception. And if you're scheduling, you don't want that, because in a scheduling app, when you have an exception, it actually jumps out of the app and then it stops running. Then you have to go and fix the exception. So to avoid these kind of things, just make sure that your app, your length, this is just a quick test, that the length of my message is less than 160, especially when you're randomly sampling these and you don't know if you selected that long one and it only picked the long ones, would it be less than 160? Maybe you selected the short ones and you ended up with Job and Mzansi, it might be less. So if you're not sure what the length of your tweet is going to be before you send it, make sure that you've checked the length of it, right? So this should be sufficient for us to send one tweet. So I'm going to copy all of it like that, including the coding thing at the top over there. And then I'm going to remove the current one. So I'm going to remove main.py, and then I'm going to add s. Okay, so I'm in the wrong directory. So let me cd out of here and remove main.py. Okay, so that's been removed. And then let's do nano main.py again. And then we're going to paste this code over there, and you'll see, you know, they're showing over there nicely, the files. Let's hope they come through with the tweets as well. So Control X, click yes, and then to run this, you just need to say Actually, this is not going to run because I didn't request it to run. Okay, so at the bottom here, I need to just call the function, because this is under a function. All right, and if you, let's just open it up again, main.py, you'll see it's actually just creating the API and the messages, the hashtags, and the function, but I'm not actually running the function. So to run the function, I actually need to specifically call the function, right? So I need to go to the bottom over there, and at the end of the function, I need to actually call it. So I need to paste that update status, and then it will run. And then I need to also then actually I want to print the tweet, right? So I can see, just as an indication that it has run. Okay, I want to print successfully tweeted. Okay, and then I want to put open curly braces, and then I'm going to put inside of that of a string, and I'm going to say format SG, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to close that. So what this will print is that it will print successfully tweeted, and it will enter the tweet over the format MSG. It will enter the message that was tweeted. All right, so let's close this and say yes, and then let's run Python main.py, right? Python main.py, not Python. There you go. It successfully tweeted, never give up, your life starts now, South Africa jobs, Barcelona. Okay, when I actually check this, this is my careers portal account. There you go, there's the tweet. It's immediate. Okay, never give up, like your life starts now, South Africa jobs, Barcelona. So out of my random out of my list, because I asked it to select 3, it selected Barcelona. What did you select? South Africa jobs and Barcelona. So randomly it selected South Africa jobs and Barcelona, right? So when you want to run a tweet with an image, all right, I'm going to just put that next to the other one. There's just a couple of things you need to do. The first one is that you need the image itself, and all you need for the image is actually the image path location, where the image is located on your computer, and you need the absolute path. Okay, how would you find the absolute path of an image? If you are on Windows, all right, I'm going to clear this. Clear. This is my virtual machine. It's running over here. All right. Actually, it's running over there. Even here, I was running another virtual machine. But this one over here is my personal computer. All right. So inside of MacBook, you can open your Bash, and then you can have multiple windows open. But inside of your Bash, whatever, if you want to know the absolute path of a file, okay, so let's say this is the file we want to tweet, right, which is sitting here on my computer, this one. You can just drag it like that, right? You can just drag it on top of the whatever, and then it will give you the absolute path. This is absolute path: users, materials, desktop, create, Twitter bot, blah blah blah. So you can just copy this absolute path like that, right? And you can copy it, and then you would be able to, you know, to come over there and paste it and say the image is equals to that. All right. But because we are running this on our virtual server, the file is not there on the virtual server. So the file needs to be in the machine that you are operating from. Okay, so I can't actually do it like this. I need to transfer the file into the virtual server, and then I can run it from there. All right, so let me just remind you again how to do that. Actually, let me leave that open, because I'm going to need this. This is the image that I want to tweet. All right, so I just want to keep this absolute path open. All right, so once you're in your personal computer's terminal, this is the code that you need. All right, this code is going to take a file from your personal computer, and it's going to move it into your virtual server. Right, let me take you through the code. We went through this with the Django application, but let me go through it again in case you didn't do this with us. Right, the first thing that you need is, this is an rsync code. All right, And then you enter this AVZ argument. Then the next argument is the location of your file that you're trying to move, right? So our file, remember, I showed you how to get the location. Users Matsediso desktop. This is the file that we want .jpg, all right? So this is users Matsediso desktop create .jpg. All right, so I need to make sure this file is correct, or else I'm going to have an issue. So it's python.tweepy.jpg, like that, all right? Then after that, you're going to leave a space, and then you're going to put in the virtual server path, the path to your VPS. So your VPS, even though inside of a VPS, this is the the location of where we want to put the thing. Home, Zatosh, dev, wara. This is where we want to put the thing, social data, up to date, inside that data folder. So it's home, Zatosh, dev, scholar, whatever. Your VPS has an actual address on the internet, right? That is the IP address. So anybody can access your VPS if they knew the IP address of your VPS, right? And the password. So now we entered that path, the home, Zatosh, whatever. This is the path within the VPS. Okay, so home, Zatosh, whatever, it's this one over here, data. I want to pull this also inside of the data folder. All right, so that is the path over there. But at the beginning there, you will have, this is your IP address, and then this is your username, because I don't want to put this in root. If you wanted to put this in the root of your VPS, you would say root at. But because this path is actually existing inside of my username, you will see, if I open this over there, it exists inside of the username Zatosh at Skolo, all right? So I need to actually put it inside of Zatosh at that. The Skolo is actually the VPS itself, right? So this code is going to move this file from where I am, because I'm running it inside of my VPS, inside of my computer. So it's going to move it from my computer, right? And it's going to put it inside the VPS, all right? So let's click enter. Okay, so when you run it, it will go and look for that address, and then first of all, it will try to log into that address, because I've got SSH keys on my VPS, all right? And if you follow the tutorial that I showed earlier on, you will also create SSH keys for your VPS, and then you just have to put in your SSH password, all right? So I'm going to type that now. Then once you've done that, it will take some time, and it create the whatever, boom, boom, it's done. Okay, if everything goes well, if you didn't make an error with your address, it will just say, and it will tell you how many bytes were sent, all right? Then you can go back to your VPS over there. Okay, I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to ls, and I'm going to cd into data, all right? And then I'm going to ls in here, and then you'll see here's the create Twitter bot python tweepy jpg. Here's the file over there, all right? So that file was moved, right? So I'm going to just make sure that this file is the same file over there, all right? Create Twitter bot, wara. So I'm going to remove that, and then I need the image URL. So the image URL again is inside of my VPS now. I'm talking about the URL inside of my VPS now. Remember, it's home, Zatosh, and then the rest of the path inside of the VPS, which is dev, Skolo, social, data. All right, so it's this one over here, dev, Skolo, social data, and inside of data, this is the name of the file. Okay, so inside of data, this is the name of the file. So this is where the file that I want to tweet is located. Then after that, I'm going to everything else is pretty much the same. All right, def update image, you need to put in the image in there, and the image is that image, but it's actually an image path. So let me actually replace that by saying image path so that I don't confuse you. Okay, so image path is the same image path that you need to put in there. All right, and then the file name is image path. All right, so MSG is a random choice of messages. All right, so a random choice of these messages over there. So I can actually just copy that, and then tags is equal to, so I actually want to copy this initial section so that it does the exact thing to get the message. So it will get the message, it will get the tags, random choice. This time I want to get only 2 hashtags. Okay, and then I'm going to append the hashtags at the end of the message. All right, after that, if the length is still less than 160, this is important. We're using a different API call endpoint now, right? Initially we said we had API.update status MSG. Now we need to only call API update status with media. It's a different function. And then that function takes in the file name. It must be the image path, which is that file name that we have over there. And then the status is the MSG that we created over there, right? So we can now delete this update status, all right? And then we can call this this other function over there. At the end, we can say update image, all right? And then call in the image path like that. And then over here, I want to add the print as well. Print successfully updated status with image, all right? And then I will put in the message that was MSG that was actually sent to Twitter, all right? So I'm going to delete that initial one and only have this function. Image path is that, and image path. So when you call it, we need to call it with the image path. And so let me copy all of this again, including the UTF at the top there. All right, and then when I'm here, I need to get out of data. All right, let me see where I am, and then I need to remove main.py. Then I need to nano main.py, and then I can paste that in there, and then we're gonna close that, and then we can do Python main.py. Successfully updated status with image. Always believe in yourself. Which one did we update the last time? Was it the same one? Because I think Barcelona was selected the last time. Let's go to Twitter and see. Always believe in yourself. Barcelona jobs. All right. You can see there's the image over there. All right. This is the image that we sent. So if you go to your profile, you will see this is the tweet, the one I just sent now, and this is the one before that 9 minutes ago. And if you go, I think on the home page it's also there. So basically that's how you do it. That's how you send it. That's how you send a tweet. That's how you send a tweet with an image. There's many more things you can do with this API. I mean, like I said, I will link in the description below the reference pages, and you can see all the things you can do, including following people, including blocking people, reporting somebody as a spammer, you know, geo methods. There is a lot that we're gonna do, but I'm not going to cover everything in this tutorial because it is not necessary. Okay, you can go read yourself. I think I've shown you the most important things, and this is what 90% of the people do with the tweet, with the API, especially people that just want to send tweets themselves. So instead of paying Hootsuite, how much do they charge a month, a year? Okay, you write how many lines of code are this? Boom, boom, boom. I think up to there, that's 45 lines of code. That's less than 50 lines of code. I think the only thing that will take you more time and effort is to figure out what content should go in your tweets, which you would have the same problem anyway with Hootsuite. And once you've got that figured out, 40 lines of code, boom, you can just write your own Twitter automation forever, and there's no limitations except these limits that Twitter puts on you. All right, and I mean 15 tweets a day. Who needs more than that, right? So guys, in the next part of this tutorial, we are now going to focus on applying what we've learned in terms of using Tweepy into our own web application, where we now want to specifically, instead of tweeting these random messages, we are going to be tweeting jobs, available jobs, contact information, all the things that we actually scrapped off the internet the last time, that we added into our careers portal database. We want to tweet that information to our users on a regular basis, and that's what we're going to cover next. We've done this. We've gotten our API keys, shown you a little bit of the digital ocean. I've shown you a little bit about the API, the Tweepy API. Now we're going to do the last part of the tutorial, where it's, last week, Saturday, we worked on scrapping the internet to get job search data that we're going to use inside of our Django application, right? It would be useful when we create social media that we also post these jobs on social media, so that people can know what's happening, and that's going to be a good way of us driving traffic into our website. Or somebody's going to see something on social media, and then they're going to click on it and come to our website, whatever, So that's what we want to do next, okay? So I'm going to do this in a couple of steps that I will give you a high-level indication of now. The first thing is I have a file inside of the scrapper, okay? So there's 3 files inside of the scrapper, but the 2 important ones is government.py and vodacom.py, because we only did this for 2 different, companies, the government and Vodacom. And obviously, in a real type application, you're going to do this for maybe 20, 50, 100 different companies. And over time, we're going to add more companies as we go along. But in case you had these two different companies, we're going to use this file to get the data in the format that we want it. So we're going to coerce our data into a string that is less than 160 characters. That's what we want. And then after that, then we're going to build a tweet with it. And then we're going to send it over to the file, which is going to be doing the tweets, all right? And then inside the government.py, we're going to do the exact same thing for our government tweets, all right? So this is where I'm going to go through the code with you in a moment, but this is what we're going to be doing in these files, all right? Once we've done that, we're going to create a new file that's called tweet data. And in this file, we're going to collect that information that we've coerced over here. We're going to collect it, and then we're going to send it over to our main.py, which is going to handle the tweeting. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of steps, and we've divided it into different files that manage different steps in the process so that I don't do everything here inside of my main.py file, because there's actually a lot that needs to be happening. All right, so the first thing is just go over into Scrapper. All right, so cd into Scrapper. You'll see there's nothing in here inside of Scrapper. Okay, so let's start with the Vodacom tweets. Okay, and let me take you through what we've done. Okay, so this is directly building on what we did last week when we scrapped the Vodacom website. Okay, we're gonna be scrapping it again and getting the data off of it. All right, so I won't go through this Scrapper, document in detail because I've done it already last week, all right? But I'm gonna show you very, very high level what this file is doing, okay? The first thing is that this is the URL we're scrapping from, all right? And then after we scrapped over there, we get the job, all right? The job, object, and then we get all the information from the scrapper. So this function over here, job scan, is the one which is doing the scrapping, all right? It's getting all the links. We're going to give it a link by link. So we scrap at the top over there to get all the links, and then we send it into this function over there. And then this function creates a JSON object of the specific elements that we want, all right, which are the title, the location, the date posted, the type, and the contract type. We had the description, but I removed the description because it's not necessary for tweeting. There's no way or no reason why we would ever tweet. We wouldn't even be able to tweet an entire description because tweets are limited to 160 characters. So basically, the title, the location, and the type are usually sufficient, and that's all I'm getting, and then I'm returning over here. So something new that I've added that wasn't there last week is this URL or shortener. Okay, there's a function I've added for shortening the URL because I also want to include a link inside of my tweet so that people can click on the link to be able to apply for the job. All right. So I looked at a couple of URL shortening, services out there, and I specifically looked for a service that I can use at least for free as a start before I have, I have a free usage of the API until a certain point. Maybe they will charge you eventually if you're having a lot of calls for the API. But I think for what I'm doing now, I will not be having a lot of calls over there. All right. So I'm gonna show you the service. All right. It is called, I have it over here somewhere. Rebrandly. Okay, this is the service that I'm using. Okay, so if I opened because I already have a Rebrandly account, it's going to take me directly there, but I want to show you how you would do it, creating your own account from scratch. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this link over here, and I will have it for you in the description as well, if I don't forget. All right, so this is where you need to go. All right, and I'm doing this in a new browser so that it doesn't show you, because if I do it on my browser, it will take me directly to my account because I've already logged in. So it'll take you here, and then you choose, create an account, or you already have an account. So I'm gonna say create a new account, and Rebrand is very, very easy. You can just log in with Google, blah blah blah, and once you've done all of that, it will take you to your dashboard, and it will be something like this. All right, then when you get to your dashboard, all you need is to get an API key from them. Okay. I struggled a bit to find it. I think there was a website I worked with that had a link to the API key. But there is a way you can get the API key off here once you've created. You'll see at the top that you have links. These are all the links I've made, the workspaces, the domains, and the apps. All right. So under the domains, all right, remember I already bought that careers portal website, right? So, and they allow you to have multiple domains so that your link is branded to look like your domain. All right. So under the careers portal website, I already bought this domain. I want them to use messages.careersportal.com. I could have done jobs or careers portal, doesn't matter. You can actually just add a new domain and tell them that you'd like to add a new domain, and you can enter the domain name over there. All right. But here they will register a new domain for you, or you can say connect a domain that you already own. Okay, that's the way to connect a one. So I have own careers portal. So I need to connect a subdomain of careers portal because I can't link it directly to the main one if I'm using the free version, right? If you're using the paid version, I think they have a way to do it. So let's say I wanted to create a subdomain called jobs.careersportal.co.za because I want all my links to be branded like this so that people, when they see them, they see like it's taking them to jobs, but actually it's taking them somewhere else where I want to take them to. All right. So sorry, that came out wrong. All right. So the reason why you shorten URLs is because if I have a URL like this, for example, right, scholarmedium.com, and you put it into Twitter, this is, how many characters is this? Let's just go and do Python over there and do length of this thing. Sorry. Exit. Let me not exit. So I want to do length. So I need to open bracket and paste that, and then close bracket. Okay. You'll see this is already 106 characters. Okay. So if I include this link inside of a tweet, it's gonna take 70% of my tweeting space. All right. So I can't have that. All right. So if I want people to link to this, the thing that I want is to shorten the link so that it's something, it takes maybe 20 characters, and then I have more spaces to do other things. That's why we do URL shortening. It's not to trick people to take them to another website. It's to actually just be able to display your link in a way that takes less space inside of a tweet. All right. Then when you come to services like this, rebranded services, they give you a service where you give them your long link, right? And then they give you a shorter version of the link that you can use. And when somebody clicks on that shorter version of the link, it goes through the rebranding servers. And then because they have the details inside of their database, or someone clicks on this link, it redirects to the old link that you gave them. So that's how it works. So whatever short link they give me, if I share that short link, when people click on that short link, it takes them actually to Rebrandly or whatever service you're using. And then that service is able to match that short link to a long link that you've given them. So whatever that long link is. So whatever long link you want to share, that's where the clients will end up when they click on the short link. All right. But if you just use Rebrandly, all the short links are branded Rebrandly. And you might not want that for your brand, okay? You might want to use a short link that talks to your domain. This is why now you create this is what this is for. I'm creating a subdomain inside of my domain that will be used for the short links, all right? So the person who clicks on it will see jobs.careersportal/ some other random name, right? So it will look like my branding, all right? Then when they click on it, it will take them to the long link that I want to take them to. In this specific case, it will be the link for the job, because the APSA job specifically, you can apply for them directly on the APSA website, all right? So when they click on the link, it will take them to the APSA website. But because our website is currently not deployed yet, we can't take them to our website. Ideally, what we would want is that link, when we create it, when people click on it, it will take them to the job, to the specific job link in our website, because we actually want to drive people to our website. We don't want to drive them to APSA or Vodacom or whatever the actual, we want them to come to our website and then want them to register on our website and then apply for the job on our website. Then we take them to the other job website where they can do the application. So because our web application has not been deployed yet. It will be within the next couple of weeks. We're just doing a couple of finishing touches, but we have to start building social media so that we can start creating the anticipation. This is coming, this is coming. This is always good practice. You'll see sometimes social media precedes, the actual platform, to just see the interest and gauge if people are going to be engaging with your brand and so forth. So that's really what the short domain is for. Okay, so I'm not going to create this, but you would want to do this if you have a domain name. And one, because I've already created another one that I'm going to be using, right? So once you've created that, you click next, and then it will give you an A record. Okay, it will give you what they call an A record, and then you need to take that A record. That A record will just be like an IP address. It's going to be the IP address of Rebrandly. You need to take the A record. You can just send it over to your hosting provider for your domain. You can email them under support and say, hi support, this is an A record I would like to add for this, for my domain, right? Or you can do it yourself if you're using something like domains, and I've showed you how to work with domains. You can go to the front end, to the customer, the customer section. There's a place there under the domains where you can add your own A record. And the A record will be something like this. The host will be jobs, because it's the host under your domain. And then they'll give you an IP address, and that's what you'll put under A. And then you'll put in like a TTL of like a number, whatever, you might use like 120. And then that's good. And then you give it like 30 minutes or so, or 15 minutes. And then Rebrandly will pick it up, and then you'll be able to use that domain for your links. All right. So that's all you need to do for this one. Currently, the one that I've created yesterday when I was testing this is this messages.careersportal.co.za. So that's the one we're going to be using. So all our links we are shortening are going to be this. And you can see this is already pretty long, but it's definitely shorter than this link, for example. It's longish, but it is shorter. All right. So that's what we're doing here, shortening links. Okay, so I'm going to exit here. All right, and I'm going to clear that. And then let me take you through the code for shortening your URL. By the way, this code is available on the Rebrandly website. Okay, so if you go under documentation, I can't remember how I got here. Perhaps you can find it from this side. Way before you log in, because I think I had it before I even logged in. And you can go through the documentation, you can pick whatever you're using, Python, and they have the code for Python. All right, I actually basically copied and pasted it from their website. So this is what it looks like. So the link request, you have to this is a variable you have to define. The destination is a link URL, so this link URL is going to be that long link, whatever the long link is. Okay, so that link URL, you're going to put it in there. All right, and then you're going to have a chance to enter the full name of your domain. Okay, so domain, then you're going to have a full name, then you can have it like that. This messages.careersportal.co.za is this domain name that I have over there. If you don't have a domain or a subdomain, the default one is the one from Rebrandly. I think it's rebrandly.la or whatever, and you can use that. And then /tag. This is important if you want to for URL friendly, for SEO friendliness. So perhaps if you knew your title of your job, you could say, whatever the title is. So let's say it's a project manager, you could put in here project manager. Okay, so what it will do is that it will use the initial domain, and then it will say /, and it will make sure that it includes your /tag over there just to help with the SEO. All right, but at this point, I'm not going to fuss too much about it because I'm okay that this is the careers portal, and it will be a long process for me to try and iterate through all the job names and figure out, which one, and it will still make this even longer. All right. So I've left it out for now, okay? And then the request headers is very simple. So you need to get an API key from Rebrandly, okay? It's just one key, all right? And then what I've done is that then you can put it in here. You can just paste it in here when you write this code yourself if no one else is going to be able to view your code. Otherwise, you can do what I've done and create a config.py file, create it in the same directory. Remember, we had a config.py file on the other side where we were dealing with the Python Tweepy program, and we entered all the API keys for Tweepy. All right, this config file is a different config file because it's in the same, it's in the same folder as your other Python programs. Okay, so this config file is different from that config file. Every time you're referring to a full file within that you're going to be importing, ideally you want it to be in the same directory. So your config, you want to save it in the same directory as the files that are running, okay? And then inside the config file, you call it a rebrand API key, or call it whatever you want, whatever you call it in there, you just need to refer to it here, and then you say config dot, and then make sure that you've imported config at the top there. That's all. And then after that, you're going to run requests, okay, request.post over there, and then JSON dumps, whatever. So requests you need to import at the top, and remember requests is it's an it's a library of Python, but you need to actually install it, so it's not automatically installed. So let's do that now before we forget. And we need to install BeautifulSoup as well, and every time I always have to remind myself. BeautifulSoup. All right, so the first thing you need to install is BeautifulSoup. It's BeautifulSoup 4. Okay, so let's install that, and then let's install requests. Get the spelling right. Right, and you'll go ahead and it will install BeautifulSoup, and then it installed requests already satisfied. Okay, so we have all of that, daytime and all the other ones are already there. All right, so once you've done that, you are where's my code? So you're going to use request to post this to this URL, and again, this URL is available on the documentation, so you'll find it there. Then you JSON dump, make sure you install JSON at the top over there. I mean, you imported JSON at the top, and then the link request, headers, whatever's, and then you'll get your response. Okay, now we're just checking that the status code is okay, and then the link is r.json, and then we return the link.short URL. Otherwise, we return null if the status code is not okay. So this is if maybe there's a problem. The only way the status code would not be okay is maybe if there's a problem with your API key, if it's incorrect or it's expired, or for some reason maybe you have revoked it, or there's a problem with these over here. Because when you create your domain the first time, I had to wait like close to 30 minutes before it was active, because it takes time for DNS records to propagate. Okay, once you create the DNS record on your whatever, it will take a couple of minutes to propagate, and it also takes time for these guys to realize that the DNS record has propagated, that now they can activate your whatever. Okay, so these two things are the ones that will delay you. So if you write the code now and you've done the DNS, give it like an hour and then check it. And if there's an error over here, you can just say return whatever and print it out, and you can see what the status code was, and you can print out the error and see what the problem was. Okay, but this is assuming everything is okay. That shorten URL, you only have to sort of enter the URL at the top, and that's the link that goes in there that you're going to shorten. Okay, then I'm calling the shorten URL function inside of the job scan link at the top, where I'm shortening the job URL. Okay, so the URL of the job, which comes from the BeautifulSoup after we've done everything to scan, or what you call it, scrap the website. We're going to get the URL for that, and we're going to put it inside of our object, which we're going to send back. So we're going to send back the URL and the title, the location, the type, and whatever. We're going to send that back as it is. All right, then after that, where is it? Oh yeah, so this is the final function at the end. Okay, so this function calls that and calls that, right, JSON and everything, and it saves the objects inside of a Vodacom.json file inside of the data. Okay, so what you need to do is after you've created the scrapper, you need to go out of there. Okay, and then you need to cd into data. All right, you'll see there's only limits in that, and then you need to create, so you can say touch this file that you're going to be saving to Vodacom.json. You need to create it. All right, even though it will be empty, you just need to create it so that it's there. All right, and then the government one, let me see which file we are using. It's called that, so we just need to create it as well, and then we can cd out of here, and then we can cd into scrapper. Okay, and then we can do nano, what is that file called in there, Vodacom.py. All right, and then we're gonna copy and paste this file in there. All right, so what are we doing at the bottom here? This is what we're running. Okay, we are calling the URL, this URL. So this is the URL we're calling. It's the main URL. So if you open this website, this is the URL we're calling. All right, this is the main website that shows the list of jobs. All right, so these are all the lists of jobs that are available. So what it does is that it scraps this page, and it gets this link and opens up the link, and then gets the main things that we need from the link over there and adds them into the whatever. So, but I won't go through all of that now, but that's what's happening there. Then it takes all of that, and then it creates an object with the important things that we want, and then after that, it adds them into a list called final jobs. Okay, then we're gonna write JSON. This write JSON is the same write JSON function I showed you earlier on. There it is. We're gonna write JSON. We're gonna write this file path. So we're gonna write this document in there and save it in there. So once we've created this objects, we're gonna save that information inside of this file as final jobs, whatever. So I'm gonna copy this whole file over there. All right, and I'm going to paste it in here. All right. Yes. And then I'm gonna run it. Hope everything is okay. Okay, so I haven't created the config module. All right. So I need to do nano config. All right, and then I'm gonna save my config in here, a bit off camera. Okay, so make sure you've called it config.py. Okay, it needs to be a Python file for it to work. Okay, so once I've saved my API key in there, then I can do Python Vodacom.py. It's going to take a bit of time because it's literally going through all those links one by one. It's clicking on them. It's going to the other page. It's saving that information. It's going to the next link. It's going to the other page. It's saving that information. Then it's putting it all in a JSON object. And then it's putting it in a list. Then at the end, it will save it for me in there. So that's done. I'm going to cd out of here, right? And I'm going to cd into data. So I've created this Vodacom.json. I'm just going to open it. Okay. Yeah, now it's got something in it. It was just created, right? And you can see the URL link, the first link there. MS messages, careers portal, blah, blah, 2EM. You see that? This is my URL that I created over there. And then it's got all the titles and everything else for that job. All right, so I'm going to close this. All right, and then we're going to do the same for the government jobs. Okay, so for the government jobs, it will be slightly easier. We're not going to start with scrapping because when we did our Django application the last time, if you remember, we already scrapped the PDF documents. We had like 16 of them that we scrapped, and we saved all those documents already inside of this location. So inside of the Scholar app data folder, we created all of these from careers 1 to career 16. So if you recall with us, we already have the PDFs that have that information. So we're not going to re-scrap them again, okay? We're just going to work off those PDFs and get the information. And this code is the same code from last week. I just copied and pasted the code, so I don't need to go through it again. You can go check the video from last week, how to scrap a PDF document, okay? So basically that's all we're doing over here. We are from these locations. All right, we are going through all the locations, which means we're going through these files one at a time. All right, and then we are opening the file and we are extracting the information from the file. All right, and then we are saving it into this content list. All right, and then so at the end we're gonna save everything inside of the content list. All right, then after we've done that, we're gonna create the post list and the index list. And then for X in content list, we're creating the, we start working on the post list, all right? And then the, what is this, the index list? Yeah, so we create a list with the posts, and then we create a list with the indices, and then we go through the index list, and then this time we've deleted some of the stuff. We only want the title, the salary, the location, and the inquiries, all right? And then in some documents, we found that some of the documents didn't have inquiries, and we had an error with that. So this one is optional if it exists, all right? And then after that, we're just going to save it inside of this governmentjobs.json and then file path, okay? So what we want is that we want to scrap the information and save it first as a hard-coded information. Then we can build our tweets from a saved JSON object, so that every time we tweet, we are not scrapping every single time, because we want to tweet, I don't know, 5-6 times a day, maybe 10 times a day, and we don't want to scrap the document every day, okay? So if we've saved all the jobs already, like we've saved all the jobs from Vodacom and we've saved all the jobs from the government, maybe in total is what, 100, 200 jobs per week. Maybe we'll run the script every week, right? If we've saved these jobs every week, all we need to do is save them once, and then we have enough Twitter content for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time, until the government updates this list, and then we have to go scrap it again, you know, and then, but we will automate also the scrapping code later on, you know, but for now, we're just scrapping this thing once, okay? So I'm gonna copy all of this. Oh, we need PyPDF2 for this script to work, all right? So we need to install that. So let's cd out of data. Let's cd into Scrapper. Actually, by the way, it doesn't matter where you run the pip install, all right? Because as long as your Twitter environment is on, all right? So I'm gonna install PyPDF2. This is the library that we're gonna be using, PyPDF2, to read the PDF so that we can scrap it, okay? So this code is gonna require that to be installed over there, and I'm just gonna copy that and I'm gonna paste it. Ugh, no. Okay, this is shielded. Clear. ls, I need to nano, not Vodacom.py, I need to nano, and what am I going to call it? Government.py, okay? govt.py. These are all the government jobs, all right? So I'm going to paste that in there. All right, and then I'm going to close that and click yes, and then I'm going to run Python govt.py. And takes a bit of time as well. They're going through all the documents. That's a lot of documents that it needs to scrap for information. And if there's no errors, it will end the script. And then you can also cd out of here and cd into data. And then we can open up. Let's see what's in there. We can open up the government.json file. And then you will see the information is now saved in there, including the packages and everything, all right? So that's good, all right? I'm gonna clear that. So now we've got these two files covered. We're gonna go to the next file. So these two files, we're just collecting the data. Now, after we've collected the data inside of the scrapper, that's why this folder is called scrapper. This folder is just for scrapping, all right? And in your main.py, you could automate these functions to run on a, you know, I don't know, on every 2 weeks basis. And then you would call these functions from your main.py file, and then you would schedule them to run every 2 weeks, provided you haven't hard-coded this document name. But the Vodacom website will always work, because every time there's a new job, it will be posted on the same place. It will just, the list will grow. You know what I'm saying? So what I like about this, the Vodacom code, you wouldn't need to change this at all. If you run it every 2 weeks, it will always find the latest jobs. The problem with the government PY, we hard-coded the specific documents. What we need to do actually is to properly scrap this website. Re-scrap it. I don't want to re-scrap it in here because I've already done it, but I will upgrade it and re-scrap it properly so that it always finds the latest PDFs instead of getting it from PDFs already downloaded into the system. Okay, but then you'll be able to just sort of schedule this from the main.py file, and then every week this will just get the data, save it inside of your data folders. All right, so every time you run it, even though there's a file which exists in there, when you run the script, whatever file that exists in there, this will overwrite that file. Okay, it won't give an error. It will just replace that information with this new information, which means if your main.py you are tweeting, this will always tweet what's in there, and then these two files will make sure that what's in there is always up to date. Okay, then This is the interesting part. This is where we are now building up the tweet into a proper tweet that we can send out. Okay, so I've got two functions. The first one is to grab the Vodacom jobs, and the second one is to grab the government jobs. Okay, and at the top there you have similar to write JSON, you have read JSON. Okay, so what does read JSON do? Okay, read JSON reads a JSON file and transforms it into a Python dict object that you can work with. All right, so it JSON loads a JSON file. Right, so to grab Vodacom jobs, okay, what we're going to do over here is that we're creating an array called statuses. All right, and in that array we need the file path where the Vodacom jobs are saved, which is this data vodacom.json. All right, so in here we have the Vodacom jobs saved. So we're gonna find the jobs by reading JSON, and reading JSON is this one over there, and entering, it takes the file name as an argument, and it opens that file name location and returns a JSON.load object, right? So basically what we're doing here, we are reading this JSON file and returning a Python dict object. So what we'll get inside here will be a Python dict object of the data that's in there. Once we've done that, we say for job in jobs, we just sort of like for job in jobs, we're building the tweet now. You know, like for example, there was inside of the JSON file, there was the title, the location, there was the URL, the contract type, blah, 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 all those things in there. So we are building them into one long string. Okay, so we are saying Vodacom dash dash dash, you're going to insert in the job title and the contract type, apply dash, you're going to insert in the URL link. So the tweet will read something like, let me create a space in there, all right, and enter, a hash. So the tweet will read something like Vodacom, all right, what's in there, the job maybe is, IT manager, all right, and then the contract type will be maybe something like full-time or whatever, or part-time, whatever the contract type will be, and then finally it will have a comma, and then the URL link will be that messages dot careers portal portal.co.za / whatever the extra letters they gave you. So our tweet is going to look like this. This is the tweet message that this is going to build. All right, and then on the other side, on the government jobs, and then it will return after it builds that, it will append this list. So it will return a list of all the tweets based on all the information that is inside this folder. So everything that we saved inside that file will now be iterated through, and we'll build a tweet for it. So if there was like 20 jobs, there will be 20 different strings that will be built inside of this list that we're going to return. So the same thing with the government jobs, but it's a bit more involved because, with the government jobs, we're reading a PDF document and it had so many things. I mean, the way we split it was not perfect. So I had to spend more time removing double empty because it even had like double spacings in between some of the words. It had like a continuation of, like at the beginning of the next paragraph, sometimes in the end of the first paragraph. So it didn't always get it right. So we had to do a bit of cleanup to remove the double spacing, to remove the new lines, parts of the strings. But basically all of this is just cleanup. Okay, this is all data cleanup to just make it look as reasonable as possible. Then once we've done all of that, again, we are building the status the same way, okay? So here it's gonna just build the job title and the inquiries, because we found with the government job, sometimes the job title alone was 100 characters. You would have director of, managing Marawara IT department, chief executive officer / job ID reference number / so you find that whole title takes 100 characters. So we couldn't include too much information. So we only actually take in the title and the inquiries. So at least they can be able to connect. And another problem with the government jobs as well is there is no link where online people can go apply for the jobs. Government doesn't work like that. You see a government job, you have to actually still email your CV to some person or call someone to get some Z form that you're going to fill in manually. So with the government jobs, the most we can give them is the title of the job and the inquiries, so who they need to contact for that application. So that's what we have in here. And then again, we are checking that the length is less than 100. And if the length was less than 100, then we can add the location. Okay, but if it's not, we're just gonna send it as it is, because we don't want the tweet to be too long, because we still want to add hashtags. We haven't even added hashtags. This is just the message MSG part of the tweet. You remember when we did the tweeting over here, Twitte.py, and we're building the messages. We are just building this part of the tweet. We are still gonna get to the point where we add hashtags. So we don't want this to be more than 120 characters, so that we still have 40 characters for the hashtags. Okay. So we're doing this for the government. So this is the government jobs, and then this is so these functions over here currently, we're not even running them from this file. We're just writing them on this file. So this could be similar to what we call a functions file, where you write all your functions. You could have written this function inside of your main file, but you don't want that. They're gonna take up too much space. So I'm going to just copy all of this. All right. And then the tweet data needs to be in the root of your whatever, not inside of the scrapper, because the scrapper has already been done. Here we're building the MSG part of the tweet. So if we go over here, we need to go out of the data, all right, and we need to build it inside of here, all right? So we need to call it tweet data.py. All right, so we need to say nano to open it up, and then we're gonna paste all of that in there, all these functions. You're not even calling any one of them, you're just writing them in here, and then we click yes, so that you're gonna clean up all your JSON objects inside of your database and build proper strings for messaging of the tweet. Then once you've done that, now we can actually build our Twitter file, our main file. All right, so let's go in there. Right, let's go and open here, and now finally we're gonna this is where we're writing our tweets. Right, I'll take you very quickly through it. Okay, a lot of this you've already seen, so there's no need for us to overdo this. All right, so at the top there we need to, this is where we import Tweety. We import config. This config file is the same config file we worked with. We imported it when we were working on this Twitter.py file. That config file is the one which has your API key and your access tokens. So that's the same one over there. What is it? Main.py. Where's my main.py? It keeps closing up. All right, so that's that config file. Okay, then you need to import random, because we're going to be using random to randomly select tweets the same way we did on the other side. Something new you haven't seen here is schedule and time. Okay, we're gonna eventually, I'm gonna show you how to run a schedule, scheduling and time. So creating the API, all right, instead of what we did over there with Twitter.py, where we had it just on the, on the file itself, and every time the file ran, this was created. We're gonna have it like a function as well. So we basically put it inside of a function, and then this will only run if you call this function, and it will return the API, because so that we can call the API when we need it, right? And so every time we call this function, we're gonna recreate the API, all right? Then I'll get back to that later. Refresh tags, trend tags, get tags, and then we'll go through how to create the tweets and send the tweets. Okay, but before we do that, let's talk about the tags. All right, you'll see now something new we didn't have before. I have a different type of a tag. All right, the first type of a tag is just if you look at Scholar Social Data, we're gonna need two files: a trend tags and normal tags. Okay, so let's cd data. We don't have those files. Let's create them, because you need to create the files even if they're empty, all right? And I'm just going to say nano. Let me just get the spelling right. Trend tags.json. All right, and then we're gonna have tags.json. All right, so these are two tag files. No. Not nano. I wanna say attach. Because I don't want to actually open them. All right, then I want to go into tags.json, because these are just normal tags which I'm actually gonna just manually input in there. These are tags related to job searching. So if you go to my inside my data and you go into tags.json, these are the tags I want: job search, job seekers, job fairy. And I didn't have time to think about properly what these tags should be, but I would recommend, if you, whatever your area is, fill this up with like a good 20 to 30 tags, and mix it up, very serious, well, very, like powerful, whatever important tags and the ones which are not used a lot, so that you have like a variety. And when you randomly choose through them, at least every time you're using a different tag, right? So that not to alert Twitter as to, you abusing the system with like, just typing the same. What Twitter doesn't like is for you to use their API to just be dumb, and like be tweeting the same tweet every day and irritating followers. That's the fastest way to get your account blocked. Okay, so you want it to still look like you're engaging and you're thinking about the things you're doing, even though you're using the API. The API is just to simplify your life, right? Then we're gonna go to Control X, and we're gonna save this. All right, but the second file, which is called trend tags, okay, we're not gonna enter this manually. Trend tags are gonna be tags which we're gonna get from Twitter based on the daily trend. So when I send my tweet, I'm gonna attach two types of tags. I'm gonna attach the tags that I like about my jobs, because I'm doing jobs, so I wanna tag job stuff. But I'm gonna attach also tags related to the latest. What is the latest trend? What is trending on Twitter today? So if Somizi is trending and Jacob Zuma is trending, or whatever it is trending, I wanna get those tags and use one of those tags for my message, so that I can at least reach random people who are just watching what's trending, but I can also reach my people that are watching job tags, okay? So that's why I'm showing you two types of tags that you can add, right? Now, let's go through, we didn't go through this code the first time to refresh tags, okay? So I'll show you quickly. The first thing that you do is that you create the API, all right? Creating the API is obviously just running this function over there, okay? But over here, let me just put this down so that you can only see what it is I want you to see for now, so you don't get confused, right? Now, the way this works, I'm running two different API functions, okay? I've got this API function of trend closest, all right? And then I've got the API function of, trends place, all right? So what this does is that I want this WOEID, okay? It's a special type of a tag ID for a location, all right? And once I have that, I'm getting it from over here. But you don't have to get it from over here. You could get it from, you can just Google what is the WOEID of a certain place, all right? It's just a number. And once you get that number, you enter it in here, trends place, to get the trends of a specific area. So if you're in Joburg and you run this function with the WOID of Joburg, you will get the leading trends in Joburg. But if you're in New York, or even if you're in Joburg and you want to know what is trending on Twitter in New York, you can run this function with the WOID of New York, all right? And then it will tell you, what are the trends. But because the WOID is a hard thing to locate, hence, I'm using this function first with the latitude and longitude. Latitude and longitude is much, much easier to get a hold of, all right? How do you get the latitude and longitude of a place? Google, right? So you go to Google, you Google, I don't know, let's Google, where am I? 4 ways. Stop this. Google a specific location, all right? Like 4 ways more. A specific location that is going to be a pin on the map. That's what you want. 4 ways hospital, whatever. A specific address, all right? Then when you finish Googling that, go to maps, all right? When you go to maps for that specific area, you will see the Google Map URL link for that place as a location, and you must make sure that you have that red tag, which is an actual dot on a map, all right? Then if you go to the URL for that search, at the top over there, you will see numbers after malls, place, always mall, at, and then there will be 2 numbers there, right? Where are they? Right, at, there you go. These are the numbers. This is your latitude, longitude of this location. So you can just copy it like that, and then you can go over there, wherever you are, and then you can just paste it, all right? And then the first part, is your latitude, and the second part is your longitude. If you're in South Africa, the southern hemisphere, the latitude is the negative number and the longitude is the positive number. Okay, so I've just done that and I've specified the latitude and the longitude. All right, then once you've done that, then you can use the latitude and the longitude to get the trains, and then from the trains, you can, pass the trains to get the WOID, and then from the top trains, you will get the top trains of the WOID, you will get a list of the top trains. And the list has a lot of stuff. It has, and I'm not going to run this now to save time, but you can run this function yourself and just print these top trends. For trend in top trends, just print it to see what it actually gives you. It gives you the name of the trend. It gives you the search, the volume, the tweet volume. It gives you a lot of other things, but I'm only interested in the name because I want to use the name to tag. But I also want to know which ones have a high tweet volume, okay? Because some of them don't have high tweet volume. Some of them don't even have a tweet volume. The tweet volume will just be none, okay? So what I've said in there is that if the tweet volume is none, all right, I don't want that name, all right? So I'm creating a new list called tag list. And inside this list, I only want items which don't have none as a tweet volume. It doesn't matter. I don't want it to rank it based on tweet volume, but as long as the tweet volume is not none, right? That's all. Because some of them, they are marketing, trends, and then they don't have a tweet volume. No one is using them, and I don't want to use those ones. I want to use ones with high tweet volumes. You can even run a function that says rank them according to tweet volume so that you can use the ones with the highest tweet volume. It's up to you how you do this. But again, I don't want to abuse Twitter too much. I'll just randomly choose a number from the tags that have at least a tweet volume. Okay, so even if it's high, if it's low, I don't know. I'll just choose randomly in there. All right, and then tag list append, and then I'm going to append everything inside of there. Then I'm going to create the file path. Remember, I've already created this file path over there, trend tags. I've created that file. All right, it's empty. There's nothing in there. But now this function will be able to, tweet data write JSON. So this write JSON function is inside the tweet data function. All right, so I'm not going to paste it again inside the main. So I'll just copy tweet data. I'll import tweet data at the top, and the tweet data is in the same directory. So when I import this, it actually is importing that file. All right, and then I'm going to find tweet data dot write JSON. So this is the function inside of tweet data that I want to talk to. And then I'm going to just enter the file path, which is that file path, and the tag list, which is this tag list. So what this does is that it's just going to go to the Twitter API, and it's going to find me the latest tags, top tags in my area, whatever area I've given it over there with the longitude and longitude. So I can put in the longitude of New York if I wanted. So it's going to give me the top of New York, and it's going to save them inside of this file path, whatever I've created the file path, so that I'll have a list of tags in there, so that every time I send a tweet, I can talk to those list of tags, whatever they are, and use them. All right. So this is the function over there. I'm not going to run it now. If you want to run it, you've seen the code, you've seen how to run these functions. You can run it yourself and see what you get. All right. Then after that, I've got another function that says get trend tags. So this function refreshes tags. It means it goes into the Twitter and finds the new tags. And then if there's a file that already exists, like if I'd already run this function and the file is already there and I run it again, it will just replace the files in there. That's why I've called it refresh tags. Every time I run it, it will just replace the content in there. And then get trend tags is now I'm going to go in there and I'm going to read JSON and get the trends. And then the tags, which are the ones which I've just added in here now, the text.json, it will just get the files in there. So I've got two functions in here, get tags and get trend tags. So get trend tags will get these tags, and then get tags will get these tags that I've done in there. All right, so these two functions, we're going to use them to build our tweet. All right, and then now we're going to discuss in more detail exactly how we are building our tweets. Okay, let's continue, guys. I'm at the part where we are now building the actual tweet that's going to go directly into Twitter. And how you do this is up to you, okay? By no means what I'm showing you is the only way or the best way to do it. It's just how I decided to do it, okay? And coding is one of those things. I sort of think as I go along, and what makes sense is what I put down, right? So, at this point, you have created a string over here, all right? From here, you've already created a string that has at least the titles that you want. You have the title, you have whatever, and you've cleaned up a lot of the empty spaces, and you've cleaned up the new line, sort of characters. You sort of have like a decent string to work with that would go into the message part of the tweet, all right? Now we're at a place where we want to now, include the tags and, make it like the tweet that we're actually going to send, and make sure that that tweet is less than 160 characters, okay? I'll start by showing you how we're doing it with the Vodacom tweet, all right? So I've created this function twice because it depends on like which data set I'm tweeting, because they are different. So the Vodacom tweet, it has the link, and they're generally shorter because the titles were shorter, so I can add a little bit more tags, all right? And I also have to call a different function. I have to call voter jobs, all right, which is the function that's going to call a file from vodacom.py, which is going to call, not this one, under tweet data, it's going to call this function, grab Vodacom jobs, all right? So and then when I create the government one, I need to call a different one. So I've sort of written them separately, but in reality, you can actually combine them and have MSG's that or MSG's that. But I want it to be separate because I also want to be able to know what I'm tweeting when I'm tweeting, so that, because our Vodacom data set has less jobs, it has about 25 jobs per page, whereas the government jobs is much more than that. I mean, we went through how many documents? Like 16 different documents, and each document has between 2 to 10 jobs. So there's more government jobs than Vodacom jobs. So I want to be able to know whether I'm tweeting a government job or a Vodacom job, so that I can tweet the government jobs more frequently than the Vodacom. That's why I've also written them in separate functions, but it's up to you how you do it. So at the top over here, I call that grab Vodacom jobs, which is from the tweet data, file, which I've sort of imported at the top over here. So the tweet data file is this one over here, where you grab Vodacom jobs. It just grabs it from the database, it cleans it up, and it puts it in a string, all right, per tweet, per job. So each and every single job goes into a separate string. So this returns a list, all right? So when I come back here, when I say tweet data grab government jobs, I'm going to get a list of strings which include the government jobs in there, and I've definitely made sure they are less than 160 characters, even less than that, so I can add more hashtags. And I've cleaned up the data set. Same with the government jobs, all right? So both these are doing the same thing, and then this is called voter jobs, this is called GOVT jobs, all right? So every data set would have its own function like that. Then once we've done that, this is where I'm grabbing the trends. Then once I've done that, I'm going to go over here, and then I'm going to say create Vodacom tweet now, right? So to create a Vodacom tweet, I create the MSG. It's that voter jobs, right? So this function over here, right, is very, very similar to when we were doing, where's our tweet file? When we were doing our tweet file, let me just open it over there. Twitter.py. When we were doing our tweet file and we were like saying this is the MSG, whatever, random, whatever, this is similar to what we're doing here. This is the function we're building over here, all right? So we're grabbing the message, and then we say hashtags is get tags, and get tags is this function over here. It just grabs these tags from the JSON file where you've saved them. So it also returns a string of a Python string, a Python, not a string, a list. It returns a Python dict, which is a list. So when you say get tags, you're going to get a list of hashtags, which are going to be the hashtags you've saved inside of this JSON file, which is what you're grabbing over here when you grab, from the saved location. All right. So we're going to grab get tags, and we're going to go to get trend tags, and get trend tags also calls this get trend tags over there, which is also already saved in the trend tags. Currently, we haven't saved this, okay? So before we can run this, we actually have to run this refresh tags, because refresh tags is what populates that file, and then we can call it over here. So before we can tweet anything, we have to actually run this function that refreshes the tags, all right? So basically, we're going to say get tags, so we get this tags and this tags. We have two types of tags now, all right, and in both cases we are grabbing a sample of two tags. Okay, so for hashtags we're gonna grab only two, and for trend tags we're gonna grab only two, because our job description is actually very long and these strings are long. I don't think I'm gonna get away with adding more than 4 tags per job, all right. But if you had a shorter string, you could have more tags. It's up to you. And remember, this is specifically for Twitter with 160 characters. All right. Then once we've grabbed the tags and we have the message, all we're doing over here is that we're saying if the length of the message is less than 110. So if the message is less than 100 tags, you can add a tags. All right. So which means if it's more than 100 tags, I'm actually not adding these tags, which are these tags over there. All right. I'm only going to add these ones. So these are just sort of like conditional statements to check how long the tweet is, right? So if it's less than 110, I'm going to add 2 tags. And these 2 tags are these tags are these ones over there, these hashtags. I'm going to add them, the first one and the second one, because I've only grabbed 2. So there's only one at position 0 and one at position 2. And then if the message is still less than 125, I'm going to add these ones. All right. So if it added that and the message was still less than that, it would add these ones. But if it didn't add that, but the message had less than 125, it would only add this. All right. So this is not an if, it's just an if. But if it's less than 140, then I'm only adding 1. Okay, and I'm adding these trend tags over there. So I'm only going to add 1 trend tag if the message already is less than 140. If it's 110, I will add this. And if it's still less than 25, I will add that. So it won't go through this and this at the same time and end up adding 3 of the same one. It will go here or if. You'll see this one is an elif. So if it doesn't go here, it will check if this one is true and it will go here. All right. But either way, I'm just building up my message with text depending on how short or long it is that's coming. And then after that, I'm going to check if the total message now, after I've added all these tags, if it's still less than 160, I'm going to return it. Okay. If it's more than 160, I'm going to go through this process again. And every time I'm going to grab a different message. All right. So there are messages I've checked through my list where, we're going to end up having more than 160, despite what we've done to try and make it shorter with the title and removing as many other things. There are especially government jobs. You're going to find jobs that just, they go way above 160. So if that kind of a message, we're just not going to tweet it. Okay. We have a long list. And if we can't tweet 1 or 2 jobs out of 20 jobs, is not a big deal. So that's why I have it inside a while true. This while true is a loop that's going to keep running. And the only thing that's going to break this loop is if I end up with a message that is less than 160. So it can iterate through this list and find a message that is more longer than 160. Then it will not break. It will not go into this if. It will just continue the loop again. You understand? So what's happening here is I'm looping until I find a condition that I want to break out of it, okay? And for the government jobs, I'm doing the exact same thing. So either way, this function will always return MSG. It will never return none. Because I went through, should I do it this way? It returns a none, and I checked on the other side, and I thought about it. But then I thought this was the best way for me to do it, to make sure, because we don't know what we're getting from the API. We don't know what we're getting from, not from the API, we don't know what we're getting from the scrapping. There are some titles that are going to be way too long. Even if we didn't append anything else and it was just a title, and we end up just always being over 160. We don't want it to return none, and we don't have anything to tweet if that's the message that gets selected, all right? So if that's the message that gets selected and it's too long, we will go through the loop again. Then we end up with this one, we're doing the exact same thing. All right, so now we've got our tweet and we know it's less than 160 characters. We're going to pass a Twitter test. And then we're going to go into the function to actually send the tweet. The first thing we do is that we create the API. So we go API, create API is this function over here. So we're going to call this function and this function returns the API. Okay, so if we are sending a Vodacom tweet, we create the API. Then we tweet. The tweet is equal to that. Create Vodacom tweet, which means we do all of this, and this returns an MSG object of less than 160. So that's what that does, and then we assign that to the function, to the variable tweet, and then we say API update status with the tweet. API updates the tweet. For all of these, we have got no images. We're not tweeting any images. These are just tweets where we're just tweeting text, plain text, and we're going to be tweeting job titles. So at the end, we can either call that function or call that function, okay? And then this over here is the code for scheduling, all right? Maybe let me explain it quickly, even though I'm not going to run the scheduling code right now, all right? So let me just quickly show you what happens over here. So if you go to the scheduling reference page, let me just try and find it. I think it's that one. All right, the Python page, the pip page. You need to pip install schedule. All right, so let me copy that and make sure that it's installed. All right, pip install schedule. Okay, let me just make sure that all the things in here are installed. Okay, Tweepy is installed, config random, tweet data, schedule time. Okay, schedule was the only one I hadn't installed. Okay, so you need to pip install schedule, and then you'll see over here. Okay, that's what you're running over there, and then you need to import schedule and time, only because you are using time over here to sleep for a little bit when you're running. Okay, and then you can go through this. I'll also link it in this description, and you can see all the different sort of functions that you can run with the schedule library. Okay, you can schedule a task every couple of seconds, you can schedule it every couple of minutes, you can schedule it every couple of hours, or you can schedule it at a specific time of the day, or you can schedule it only on Mondays or whatever, Tuesday only at whatever, or you can schedule it every minute at a specific minute, so there's many options, and you can go through this and figure out how you want to do it. So if you had specific tasks, like let's say you had Monday motivation, Tuesday this, Wednesday, I don't know, fun, Friday this and that, you would be able to say schedule every Monday and whatever, and you're only scheduling the Monday motivation on a Monday, and then every Tuesday you're scheduling only the Tuesday this and that. If you had like hashtags for different days of the week, like the Wednesday jobs, for example, then on Wednesday you only schedule the job, whatever, and then you would have different tweets for different times of the day, and then every time of the day you might have options within the options for that time of the day, then you would schedule it like that. But in my case, I don't have anything for specific days of the week. I'm not doing every second. Actually, I want to schedule the specific time of day. All right, so I want to schedule it like at 10 o'clock, at 10:30, whatever, 11, and know what time I'm scheduling it at. All right, so how you use the scheduling library is this. You say, I'm using the everyday one. Okay, so schedule every day at 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock every day, I want you to refresh tags. Okay, so this refresh tags over here. So this function as it is, you just call it inside of the scheduling library. Okay, you just call it as a function, it will run the refresh text function. You'll see over here, this is how they're showing it. So if you created a function called job, you will just put that job in there. So that's what I'm doing there. So every day at 8, we're gonna start every day by refreshing the tags. Okay, then we are when you say refresh tags, it just collects the tags and saves them inside of our JSON file, so that every time we are tweeting and we are calling it, we are calling the latest tags. And then at 8:30, I want you to send a government tweet. Then at 10:30, you are sending a Vodacom one. Then at 11:55, you're going to send that one. At whatever, you're going to send that one. Send Vodacom, send this. And then you're going to schedule it for different times of the day. And then at the end, you're going to do it inside a while loop. All right. And in a while loop, perhaps you want to do something like try, catch. All right, so that you can catch errors, and then because if you get an exception inside of your while loop, it will break it will crash your whole program. All right, so you want to be able to anticipate the kind of errors you're gonna get, but you want to test this for a couple of days and see the kind of errors you get. If because you have to, you might think your code is 100% perfect, and only in runtime you realize things come up and you're like, oh yeah, okay, so this is becoming a problem. So the first couple of days you do this kind of thing, you want to monitor it very, very closely. All right, but over here, for example, this function inside of the scrapper that actually collects the data, refresh tags, we're going to create another function that we're going to call refresh def. We're going to call it def refresh Vodacom jobs. All right, we're going to call this function to refresh Vodacom jobs, and we're going to write it, and we're going to rewrite it to run this scrapper for Vodacom, because the scrapper for Vodacom every time scraps the website. So in here, I'm going to put to do. All right, and to do over here, we are going to scrap Vodacom and get fresh data. All right, I'm going to put this inside a semicolon. All right, and we need to write the same function for the government jobs, and then we have to schedule it in here. So that in the morning, for example, but you don't have to schedule it every day. For example, you don't have to refresh the Vodacom jobs every day. You could find a way to schedule it every week or whatever, So every 2 weeks, you would schedule that one to refresh the jobs, because they're not going to change with the government ones. They only replace it about every 2 weeks, so you can run this every 2 weeks. So for the first week I didn't want to do this because I want to run this manually for 2 weeks, just observe it, and then after 2 weeks then I'll be able to figure out the kind of what's happening with this and that. And you can also randomize this time, because you can see this is a string in here. All right, so what you can do is that you can create a list of time. All right, because another thing that Twitter doesn't like as well, which will catch you out, is if you post a tweet at the same time every day. When you're doing bots and everything, you want to always avoid, even Twitter, even your people that are following, they don't want that. All right, so you want to list time, and is equals to, you can have a list in here and have different times of the day, for example. Hey, but then if you do it like that, yeah, you can do that. So you can say list time is equals to, and then you can have 8 o'clock, 8:30, 8:15, and you can have different times that are like 15 seconds apart, right? And then you can schedule run pending and then sleep and then what? Okay, but that's not gonna work. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, that's not going to work, because if you randomize it and then it picks 8 o'clock and then the next time it picks only 8:30, you're going to have a bit of a problem. Unless if you randomize, yes, you can randomize times within an hour. Okay, so you can say from 8 o'clock, 8:10, 8:15, 8:05, 8, whatever. So at least it's not the same exact hour and time every time. So within this 8 o'clock hour, you can randomize up to, 60 different times based on the minutes, right? And then instead of putting 8 over here, you would put a random value of this list, right? And then for the 9 o'clock hour, you would put a random value of the 9 o'clock list, 10 o'clock hour, and so forth, so that these are not hard coded as specific times, so that within the 8 o'clock hour or the 10 o'clock hour, it can still randomly, it can be 10:01 or 10:20, and every time it will be different. So we can perhaps do it like that. Okay, but for today, I'm going to run this for a full day with this specific time, and then I will modify the code for that, and I won't show it in this lecture again. And then obviously you want to run this while true inside of a try catch loop, and then that's pretty much it. Okay, so we're going to test this code, but before I'm not going to test the scheduling. All right, I'm going to go back to getting rid of that. The first thing that I want to do is you have to definitely start by refreshing the tags, because currently we don't have the tags. All right, so I'm going to start by refreshing the tags. All right, because I've already imported time, I'm going to date time.sleep. I'm going to sleep for like 10 seconds. All right, and then I'm going to send a government tweet. Right. All right. And then I'm going to do time.sleep. Maybe this time I can wait about 15 seconds. All right, and then I'm going to send a Vodacom tweet. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do just to show you this code for now. But later on, when you're rewriting it, you might want to use something like a schedule like that, or you might want another way of doing it. If you don't know, you schedule specific times, you want to, which is what I used to do in the past, is you can have while true. All right, and then you can put the try catch block first. And the way the try catch works is like this. You say try. Okay, and then you put your code in here, right? Accept, and then you'd put the different types of errors, like if there's going to be like, a Twitter error, whatever, and you can figure out what those errors could be that could happen. All right, so inside of the library for Tweepy, if you go to the bottom over there under the API reference, you can go and look at the exceptions over there and study the exceptions and understand the kind of, like the rate limit error is one of the things that can happen if you get into an issue with Twitter, and you can see all the different types of errors and exceptions that you can experience. So you can tell it that if you get that exception, let's say you had this rate limit error, whatever happening, right, you would put that in there, except if that happens. right? And then you would have the error in there. In case that happens, I think there would be an error.message or something. I'm not sure, but you can Google this and make sure you get the syntax right? So if there's an error, then you would then say, print the error or pass, all right? Or you would say time.sleep, I don't know, sleep for a bit, 120, especially if there's a rate limit error. You want to sleep a little bit. You don't want to immediately continue with your code. Sleep a little bit and then continue with the running. All right. So once you've done that, for now, I'm not going to do it that way. That's for you later on if you want to figure out how to work with these functions. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do and hope everything is okay. I'm going to then copy this. All right, including that at the top, even though I don't have emojis in this one specifically. I need to cd out of data. And then I need to clear this. And then I need to nano main.py. So we're going to be running this out of main.py. Looks like there's something in here. So let's just remove main.py. And then nano main.py. All right. Okay, so we're going to close this. And then we're going to do Python main.py. Okay, no module named tweet data. Oh, yeah. Okay, I do import it at the top there. But what I was explaining over here with tweet data, I haven't actually created this file. Okay, so let's copy that. And let's do nano tweet data.py. It's a py file. Yeah, there it is. Nano tweet data.py. What do I call it? Nano tweet data. Oh, okay. All right. No, I know what's the problem. All right. So this is tweet data with an underscore, right? And then, so I should, especially with file naming in Python, that's what you want. So it needs to be nano tweet data like that with an underscore, not with a dash, all right? .py, because that's what you've called over there. And you don't want to, like if you called it that, you would have a bit of a problem. So you want to call it with an underscore when you're naming files, all right? And then there's nothing there. And then you're going to paste that in there. All right. And then we can then call python main.py. Okay, so just finish refreshing the tags. It's going to wait a little bit so it's running through the, remember I printed over here to tell me when it finishes refreshing the tags. Where is it? Just finish refreshing the tags. Okay, just tweeted assistant manager wara wara, and I did ask it every time it tweets to print what it has tweeted over there and over there. So it just tweeted assistant manager whatever. So this was a government job, I think, and then it just tweeted that specialist in another Vodacom job. So let's go have a look at our Twitter. Let us have a look. There you go. All right. So I'm going to go to the profile so I can see them both. Okay. This just came through now. Okay. So this is the image we tweeted earlier on 2 hours ago. And then this is the one. This is a government job. And the Vodacom. Remember the government job didn't have any links because this we just got off, the PDFs. And at least we have the title of the job, the reference number of the job, and then we have the contact person that you can contact about this job. And then this is the location, the medical supplies depot, and then these are the two different, our own hashtags. And then after that, we've got Windows, Ash, Wednesday. This is like the other, these are now the common, the trending ones. All right, so this it got from the trending tags. And then for the Vodacom jobs, you have obviously the principal, specialist, technology, whatever. Permanent job, apply, you get this is the link that we created. This is our whatever link, and obviously job advice. These are our two hashtags, and then in this case it was too long, so it only added one one tag, you know. So we sort of try to make it like in a way that it'll figure, you know, it'll figure things out. But let's click on our link, right? Let's open our link and make sure this link is working. This is the shortened URL link that was created using Rebrandly over there, right? So let's open it. And it should take us to this job, Vodacom Principal Specialist Technology Permanent. All right, there it is. It's taking us to that job, Principal Specialist Technology Strategy Permanent Full Time. So people on our tweets will see the tweets, you know, they can click on the job, they'll go straight to the Vodacom website and they can click. But later on, what we will do is that when we're building the tweets, we will replace these links with links to our site. Because our website is not sort of running yet, for now we're just taking them to where the job currently is. When our site is running and we have deployed our Python Django application, finally, we will then be able to take them to that link, and then they can register a profile. People will be like, oh no, you cannot find the job until you register for a profile. And then that's how we're going to get people to register. And then after they've registered, then we just send them to Vodacom or whatever. And later on, over time, when we get the companies to actually register with us, we will have the ability for them to actually apply off of our website. But because we're starting now, we actually just got the job from Vodacom, so we're going to send them back there, but at least we are building our platform in the process, okay? So guys, thank you for watching. I think that's going to be it for the day. And next time, I don't know if it's going to be the next tutorial. Maybe the next tutorial will be continuing with the Django app. You know, this was a midweek. I thought let's do social media during the week. And but the next time we get a chance, maybe during the week again, maybe it will be next week, we will do the Instagram one. Okay, so we'll do something similar that we've done for Twitter, but we'll do it for Instagram, that we can automate this exact same post to go out into Instagram, or whatever we can do to grow. I think with Instagram, it's much harder to post on Instagram, but it's easier to retweet and to like follow people and, you know, but I'll show you. We'll go through the Instagram API next week. Okay, so guys, thank you for watching and we'll see you again next time.